There it is. My mic's on now. What is cracking? What's popping? What's shaking, everybody? Happy Friday. We are here for another episode of the Comic Cinematic Universe with Chill and Grace. Grace, what up?
Hello, it is yours untruly. I'm doing good.
Oh.
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a busy week, but all like good, fun things. Gonna be a light weekend, which I'm super excited for.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, can't complain on my end. How are you doing?
I'm not gonna lie. It's been a light week. Just in terms of summer's here, and then when summer comes, clients think they can go on just vacation. You know what I'm saying? They can just take time off. So it's been a little quieter here and there. But besides that, I'm doing all right. Like I just told Grace off stream that I'm still feeling under the weather. You may hear it in my voice, but I'm gonna push right through it because the show must go on. You know what I'm saying? So this is episode 38, and we're talking about the same two shows we talked about last time, Miss Marvel and The Boys. Both we're talking about episode 2 for both episodes. So last week we went nitty gritty first, and then a little softer at the end, and we said we're gonna flip flop. So today we're gonna start with Miss Marvel. Is that cool?
That sounds perfect.
Great. All right, let me switch it on over. Boom. Okay. So I still have yet to check out that extra mid-credit, post-credit, end-credit scene. But when watching episode 2, I saw they kind of like put that in the recap. So I caught it in the recap. I may still have to go back just to watch it in full because I can't let that just slide on my record. I feel like I've seen every Marvel post-credit scene no matter what. So I just got to do it just to do it.
I'm still judging you that you didn't see it the first round. So for you to come in here without watching it and you had a whole damn week,
Yep.
unacceptable.
Mm.
I mean, it gives you the gist, right? Like episode 2 does start off with like a recap. You see like the gist of the scene, like
Mm-hmm.
to know enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you are good, but yes,
I still have to.
uh,
Yeah.
though there you go. That's
Yeah.
bottom
No
line.
matter what.
Bottom line.
Sorry, y'all.
No matter what.
Sorry, fans. I'll do it. You know what? After this show, I got some free time. I'll watch. I'll watch the last. If it's not long, I'm sure it's only like a minute or two. So I'll just.
It's like 30 seconds.
So really, all I gotta do is press resume on Disney Plus on episode 1, and then it'll just put me right there. So I'm just being lazy. Sorry, y'all. I told you it's been a slow week. So I think it's just been more so a lazier week for me. So. We're here.
I'm sure you needed it though. Like you haven't been feeling good.
Right,
I'm sure
right. I
it was
needed it.
needed. Yeah, it's resting, not lazy.
Yeah. So episode 2. Well, first off, we ended episode 1 talking about how she chose her powers over, like her mom. I don't want to say gave her like an ultimatum, but gave her a choice to either choose to live a regular normal life and then choose to live in Fantasyland, and she chose fantasy at the end of episode 1, and then I agreed with her. I said, why not? If I just got these cool powers, high school and everything else in life can just be put on hold because who knows? I may be an Avenger or I may just be working with somebody. So here, this episode I like just because, of course, here I go again, jumping back and forth, but we're going to be getting, we got that montage. Every superhero has to have a workout
a
training
montage.
No matter what, whether if it's like, the only person I feel like I didn't get a montage that I would have liked to see is Bucky, you know what I'm saying? But that's neither here or there. We got a training montage with Falcon and the Shield or whatnot. And then here, Miss Marvel, we get a montage with her. I thought it was pretty cool. Her and her homie was just on the roof, kind of testing the boundaries of her brand new power. So being that I get to see what this power is, and being that I'm a little bit more so unfamiliar with how she is in the comic book, I'm not mad at what Marvel's doing as far as the changes that they made for her power. And just from what was shown in this episode, I'm with it. I like it. I just now want to see these powers be tested. Like what what can break through kind of like these little energy crystal like things, you know. But yeah, she did the montage, and I thought it was pretty cool.
Since we're on the talk of the montage,
Hmm.
did you ever see the movie Shazam?
I sure did.
It reminds me of when, like, the boy, I forget his name, Billy, I don't know,
Hmm.
but when he gets the powers, and then him and that other kid
Like
who is
his
also
buddy,
in
his like
his
foster
buddy.
brother. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, his
Hmm.
foster brother, like they're testing to see what they have. Like, you have bullet immunity, like, like testing all the things. Can you fly? Do you have super strength? Do you have like vision? Whatever.
Hmm.
Because the brother is like a nerd, just like Kamala, you know.
Right.
So I
Correct.
thought that was a really cool kind of a very similar scenes, you know, because like I think that's what, like, if either of us ever got powers, you know, like
Oh
you tell
yeah,
me, I would
definitely.
definitely tell you, you
Hmm.
know, it would be like the same thing, you know, it would be like nerding out in some like abandoned warehouse, like testing all of the possibilities to see what like the full range of it is. And that's exactly what they did.
Right.
And that was super fun. And then also, yes, like along the powers, like we know this is so unique from what they look like in the comics, like very, very, very different.
Hmm.
There are some moments that it manifests very similarly, like we saw in episode one and in this episode as well, where like she's able to kind of create this like cosmic extension of herself that is similar to her like stretching abilities in the
Right.
comics.
Right.
I feel like I remember them saying that the rationale behind them kind of going a little different this time around with the superpowers is that it didn't conflict or look too similar to Mr. Fantastic, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because just like how you described it before, you described like say in the comics being that she's an inhuman, she was technically classified as a quote unquote polymorph, and that's exactly what Mr. Fantastic is. And if anything, I would rather see something different. If we have something that's similar to Wanda level, and if she was in fact, like, let's say if Miss Marvel was in fact a quote unquote polymorph here, we just got that in Doctor Strange where the polymorph got shredded. So let's have someone
Something
like
different.
a big bad go up against some energy, you know, some energy forces. So I'm with that, and then we can save the like the polymorphic like powers just for Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, like I'm very content with how they are so far. It's very in addition, especially because they're on like a rooftop, and I wonder if this is like intentional. It also reminds me of the original Spider-Man trilogy when Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man
Mm-hmm.
gets his powers and he's on the roof and he's like doing all the different variations of like go web go, and he
Mm-hmm.
even says Shazam. Like, funny
Right.
enough, look at
Right.
this. He
Mm-hmm.
even says Shazam is like one of the words. Yeah, it's just a fun scene. I feel like it's really playful, and it's you know, like it's just it's the montage that fits well with Kamala. I didn't expect her to be like weightlifting and like picking up, you know what I mean, like the way we see
Yeah.
um Falcon or whatever's like montage. It's on the tone and the tune of this character, so I really like it.
Random. This is totally off topic, but I'm curious just to know if did you have you watched the trailer for the new Elvis movie?
I have.
So did you see like the Shazam reference in like him as a kid, and then like the actual title card is like a lightning bolt like Shazam?
No, I actually didn't catch that.
Yeah, like
No.
he was like a huge like Shazam fan or whatnot, you know. And he, as a kid, they showed him have like a lightning bolt like tied around his neck or whatnot. So I know that's random, but you brought up Shazam, and then that popped in my mind, so I wanted to kind of throw out a little fun fact.
Elvis was one of us.
Yeah,
Oh,
super
did you
nerd.
hear my ringtone, by the way?
No, I missed it.
Oh, if anything, I just heard it on my headphone. I forgot I still had my like I didn't have my phone on silent,
Mm-hmm.
and I have the Power Rangers like doo, 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 so it's very loud in
Gotcha.
my
Yeah,
ears.
yeah.
No, yeah, I'm really happy, and just because I feel like it couples with this particular scene. You know, we kind of get a little bit more information to kind of help us figure out like the origin of her powers,
Mm-hmm.
because Bruno, who's like a very much young version of like Tony Stark, was able to kind of do a full body scan, and he saw that the powers aren't just localized to like the bracelet, but
Right.
it's actually inside of her.
Mm-hmm.
So although it's very like the powers themselves are very different from the comics, it does look like they're trying to follow that this is something in like her lineage, right? And they do
Yeah.
talk about the great grandmother and things like that. And of course, we're going to learn more about that as we go on.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like so far how there are similarities in the origins of her powers. I really doubt they're going to make an Inhumans reference.
Right.
But I love how she's like, "Am I Asgardian? Am I Asgardian? Am I related to Thor?" And Bruno's like, "I don't know, maybe." You
Right.
know,
Right.
it was really, I like that scene. That was I'm really liking it. It's like so playful, everything, and it's like the classic trope you kind of follow when you meet a new hero and they get powers, the montage,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so fun. I really like this show so far.
It's a slight switch up just because they just ended a show where it started with Moon Knight already having his powers, you know, and now here we go again, introduce another show, a new character, and we're back to the montages because Falcon aside, I don't think we've seen any other montages in a long time from any other like MCU character, you know.
As of recent, I mean, I really can't think of the last
Like
one.
the next one, we're
Um,
about to get Thor getting his swole on, but that's about to come. That hasn't come yet. So I feel like now maybe wherever we are in Phase 4, we're bringing back the training montages.
I'm excited. I
Mm-hmm.
love me a nice training montage. Is this
Mm-hmm.
like I think everyone loves a montage, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
is this just us because we're trainers? What's your insight on that?
Even before I was a trainer, I would watch Rocky as a kid just to watch like the montages of him and whoever he's fighting getting ready for their fight, you know, like between him and Mr. T or him and the Russian. Those are my favorite, honestly, my favorite training montages, but those were
It's the classics,
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
know?
yeah. Like if anything, I feel like whoever writes any type of movie or even just a script just in general, whether it could be just for a TV show and it's about someone either discovering something new or they have a challenge that they have to face, then it's only right that we show how they get ready for this
Yeah.
challenge, you know?
I love it. I
Mm-hmm.
love it. I hope we do get more. I'm like trying to think what projects are coming up where we might see a training montage. Um, can't think of a single one. I don't
Right,
know. But
right.
I hope we get well Thor, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see which ones we get after that. Yeah. But let's start at the beginning of this
Sure, sure.
episode.
Let's go back to the beginning with Homegirl just because again, I didn't realize that it was her in the costume in episode 1, but she's pretty much the talk of the town at the very beginning of this episode. Do you have a name for her? For this character, the high schooler?
I do. Let me see. I think it's in my. I don't think I put it in my episode 2 notes, so I'm gonna have to scroll it on down. Her name is. I have it. I know I do. Zoe. Her
Okay.
name is
Mm-hmm.
Zoe. Zoe. I think Zoe Zimmer because when she gets interrogated down like the line of the episode, um, that one like
Agent.
cleanup
Mm-hmm.
agent, whatever, is like, oh my god, I'm such a big fan, you know, like kind of like feed at her ego.
Right.
Yes, but Zoe Zimmer is like eating it up because she's obviously getting a lot of like clout because of her being saved, and she's just like milking it to the max.
Right. Even naming the person, it's like, oh, it's Nightlight, and it's like,
Oh.
oh, okay, that's what we're doing.
Despicable. It reminds me of what's his name? You know the Flash, like the one with the long hair. He gives all the villains like the name. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't. The Flash.
Those who have seen the Flash, yeah, the Flash, it's like the guy with the long name. I forget a long name. The longest name. He's kind of like the tech guy behind the scenes. He ends up getting powers, but every single villain that comes up in like the Flash, he names all of them.
Mm,
Um, she is not him when
right.
it comes to the naming.
Okay. Well,
Uh,
as far as the agent goes, honestly, no matter what, this guy, he plays at being like a subtle like wise guy very well. Like I've seen it in like other projects that he's been in, and then like just the whole idea of like you said, boosting her ego. Like, oh my god, wait, you're her? I'm such a big fan, you know, where she's taking it as is, where he's like low key kind of jabbing at her. And I don't know the actor's name, but if anything, this show aside, he is a character to where I would like to see him further along the MCU.
I mean, the way it's played out, I think he's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
We saw him, I think, for the first time, at least from my memory, in Spider-Man: No Way Home,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that he's like a very like, you know, what's the word I'm trying to say? Like he's a very like a known actor,
Mm-hmm.
right? That
Mm-hmm.
usually do not put. I mean, there's been cameos here and there, but like, you would imagine that he's probably going to have like a bigger role than just somewhat of a cameo, especially now that he's in Miss Marvel as well. And it seems like the DODC is going to maybe have a bigger role to play, not just in Miss Marvel, but maybe like in the bigger scheme of the MCU. And maybe, who knows, like maybe we'll even see them come up in like She-Hulk, you know?
Well, say
Um,
with this organization, this is where um we're gonna talk about uh the pyramid here. You know what I'm saying? Just in terms of where this organization lands, because of course it's like you have you said they're called the DOJ or something like that. What are they called?
DODC, so it's the Department of Damage Control.
Okay, the DODC, right? And you said that was in Spider-Man: Homecoming, correct?
Yes, that was the first time we see him in Spider-Man: Homecoming, and then they make an appearance again in Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Okay. So as far as him as a character, right? And this organization, like I want to see where this lands as far as him, this organization. He makes a mention in the interrogation room to his partner about the FBI, and the person that we know in the FBI is the Asian guy that was in WandaVision and Ant-Man 2. So I want to
Hmm.
see those worlds kind of collide, and then of course we have Sword, another agency. But say the way he mentioned it to his partner, it was just like on some, hey, the FBI is about to be all over this, meaning that I feel like I took it as they're not, maybe let's say, as high. They may be a little covert operation, you know, and they may not be higher on the quote unquote governmental chain of organizations in comparison to the FBI.
And then, yeah, I would say like that could very well be the case, or even just like jurisdiction. Like they could have somewhat like of a linear like power,
Mm-hmm.
but because of jurisdiction and maybe like the specificity of like the situation, like a different agency would handle those specific cases, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Or overall, maybe like the FBI is just a greater entity than the DODC. But I feel like that would be cool to kind of see because we do have a lot of different agencies at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and so it'd be kind of cool to have them mentioned in like a similar or like in like the similar space to get an understanding of like the hierarchy
Yeah.
and how those organizations kind of overlap because it all is in relation in superheroes.
Right.
And I would imagine that this agency works probably alongside like the super I think it's like the superhuman division, right? And like the
Mm-hmm.
law firm
Mm-hmm.
that Jennifer Walters works in. I feel like that would just make sense, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the things that they handle, I feel like are overlapping.
Yeah. I think with that, the overlap, the closest thing to overlap for me, as far as my understanding, I think, would be that, and then the FBI, just in terms of um, say the FBI feel like they're more so they only work, let's say, on a national level, let's say on the home front or whatnot, you know. um, but you have initially this DODC that's quote unquote handling damage control of stuff that's already happened. You have the FBI that's trying to get a grasp, honestly from what I'm seeing from Ant-Man and uh WandaVision. I wanted to say Wonder Vision just because I just saw the little posts online about the whole Wonder Man situation, and then somebody's like, "Oh,
Oh yeah,
Wonder
yeah, yeah.
Vision could be a thing," you know. But anywho, the FBI is still trying to more so figure out what to do with Soups, and then I'd like to still kind of continue with the fact that I think Sword is more so uh, on the borderline protection of the Earth from outside, from like space. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
different factions
absolutely.
for different reasons, but I think the closest overlap between the two would be the DODC and the FBI because they're both on the home front.
Yeah, I mean that makes total sense. Yeah, and then I think this particular scene with the DODC agent, you see like their tactics that are very similar to like No Way Home. Like they're very nasty. Like they're kind of assholes. Like I
Yeah,
don't like them
yeah.
specifically, like these
Mm-hmm.
particular agents, which makes me assume that this like department isn't like a great department. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't give like Agent Woo vibes, or it doesn't give, Jennifer Walter vibes. Like those are, kind of representatives of these other entities, other agencies we've spoken on.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if anything, this one's gonna have a much more like, it seems like they have more like malicious intent. I don't know.
Sure.
Like,
I'll
they're definitely seeming to set up as villains here.
like say just because like you saying that in that actor and like his acting style is it comes off initially like bad guy but a little bit shady, you know. But say if
Yeah.
with that now that puts it into perspective as far as like who can be at the top of this chain because we still have no idea who Val is connected to, you know. So when it comes down to it, if anything, we may find some connection to either Val. I'm hoping that's just me spitballing again, or something else that we already know. Let's say like the Power Broker or something like that. Like for me, it's like the connection still has to be made because those are things that have just kind of been dangled out there since the start of Phase 4. So being that, let's say if we're almost let's over halfway, maybe closer to the end of Phase 4, let's start making some connections that will lead us into Phase 5, just so Phase 5, you know, who is under what faction and who is after what in terms of power.
Or even like something more suggestive where it's like, okay, phase 5 is gonna be all about the team ups getting together or
Mm-hmm.
something. Like, yeah, I feel like we need that. And honestly, we haven't seen Val in quite a bit. Like, she was kind of, very like her presence was very much felt early on in this phase.
Mm-hmm.
And I think after Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we haven't really had any, I
No,
don't think
no
any
other
like,
interaction.
yeah,
Yep.
appearance of her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's overdue for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely overdue. Let's see. So after, Zoe is kind of like really hyping it up, like, oh, Zoe's famous right
Mm-hmm.
now. Everyone's like on her, and she names Kamala's like superhero
Mm-hmm.
name,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I love how she's like, I'm gonna have a party to celebrate the fragility of life.
Right.
This was just like and I think that the trio kind of reflected our reactions of it because they're just kind of like ill,
Right.
like
Mm-hmm.
it's just too much. But here we get a character that I spoke about last week.
Mm-hmm. Continue.
Kamran
Mm-hmm.
has entered the building. So Kamran, we talked about last time, is a character that very similar to how we're seeing it in this first episode. Kamala has like this huge crush on. Initially, though, in the comics, like she doesn't really like him,
Mm-hmm.
but then they realize they have actually like quite a few things in common, and we do see that here. Like you see that kind of kindle. It seems like it's reciprocated. Just like in the comics, Bruno is like immediately very jealous. Um, and in the comics, it's revealed that he's actually a villain.
Mm-hmm.
Because at some point he picks up Kamala. This is in the comics, and he reveals, well, that he's aware of Kamala's
Mm-hmm.
powers, and he also is an Inhuman who has powers that manifest in like some blue like I don't have the specifics on me right now, but like he's also an Inhuman with powers, and he works for this one villain called, I think his name is Kaboom.
Mm-hmm.
So this episode might be like kind of in the comics where it's like, she likes him. It's setting up that foundation, and maybe in this next one, especially the way this episode ended, we might see things kind of shift a little bit. But I'm excited that he came into the scene because I was right.
Yes, yes, you were. um, but like just to kind of go further on that, I feel like if anything, we're already almost like once I saw the end of this episode in terms of him picking her up, like I already got a basic feel for the idea of like, say he is a bad guy, the person that he's giving a ride to is a bad woman, if that's her great grandmother or whatnot, you know. Either way, I feel like being that she's young, she's impressionable, she is super trusting, you know.
Yeah.
She's young and naive, and of course they're making it seem to like this guy is a quote unquote dreamboat and could be a good guy, but in actuality, I see it turning around mid season or towards late of the season.
Yeah, and I think like it kind of if you look closely enough, like you said, like I think in especially in the last this episode, you kind of get the feels of like it doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Something doesn't feel right,
Mm-hmm.
and he obviously is like aware of her, and like I think the bracelet, like it's coincidental that he just kind of shows up in the middle of the school year, like right after she
Right,
becomes a
right. Oh,
superhero,
I'm brand new, y'all. Right, the day after, but don't worry about nothing. You know what I'm saying? I go
Yeah.
here.
This is not conspicuous.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when they were in like the little cafe and he was hiding behind like the newspaper with Kamala and they're kind of holding hands, like I got like a little because his hand was like I think wrapped around where like the bangle would have been, like the bracelet. And so I'm like,
I didn't see
it
that.
just
I
all
missed that.
it all like kind of reads as like red flags, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the woman that's in the car, that's his mother, the one that shows up in the car.
Okay, but isn't that the same woman that she's seeing in these little visions?
Is it? I don't know. I know we see her clearly in like the last vision
Mm-hmm.
she has. But I don't know if I made the connection that it was her. I could be totally wrong. But I know he said that this is my mother.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Right.
And it would be weird for it to be his mother and her have visions of someone who I'm assuming was her great grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? But I could be wrong. I'll have to look on that again. Like you might be right
Yeah.
because they look kind of similar.
Yeah. I'm not trying to be that guy, but like I feel like it was the same woman, but I could be wrong. You know, if I am, I apologize to everybody. But say when it comes
To the
down
world.
to um, kind of moving on in this episode, we get a little bit more background as far as like her culture. You know, they go to the mosque and it's the time for them to wash up and pray and everything like that. And one thing that I like about Marvel as far as what they're doing, because honestly, the last 2 days I've kind of spent watching the Avengers assembled on Moon Knight. Have you seen that yet? On Disney
No,
Plus.
not yet. Is it
Okay,
good?
it's really good, and it just deep dives into like how Marvel. It's not only just the Egyptian cultures that they're adapting, but a majority of the actors were Egyptian or partly Egyptian. Like,
Mhm.
of course, the Scarlet Scarab, Khonshu was actually Egyptian, and the Tauret is an actual Egyptian actress. You know, so they're keeping it authentic to the point to where they're trying to keep it as close as possible. Now here, the fact that it's like they're going in and they're showing things that normally you wouldn't see on TV, or normally I wouldn't see, but it's good just because at the end of the day it's not making the show just like another superhero show, but it's making a show that's connected to uh, a culture of people, you know. And if anything, if this is the only show that they're still gonna watch the shit out of it just because this is their culture, you know. And that's what I got from that Moon Knight one, because everybody in there, they were just like, I can't believe how beautiful they did this in terms of the set. They they were just like kind of just talking about their culture, you know. And I can imagine that's what this is going to be when the Marvel Avengers Assemble come out for Miss Marvel once the season's over. But I'm happy that they actually do this, you know. And we've been talking about this whole phase as far as the accepting and the uh, just the more cultures that we are getting here in the MCU. It's not just like a whitewashed superhero brand. This is just we're starting to sprinkle in a little bit of everything, you know. So that's one thing that I do like about the show. And I know I kind of went on a tangent, but like bringing it back to this mosque, you see Kamala and her best friend. They go here. They're late. The old woman's complaining that they're super late all the time, but I just see it as a teenager being a teen, and of course a teen is gonna be outspoken, and she just had some talk back to the head person. And me and my church, I probably would have never did that, but she was just like, "It's cool."
Then Gen Zers are feisty.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like they have no fear.
Right.
No, it's, and I think they did a good job of kind of also showcasing that even within like this culture, like there are areas in which they're, like women are treated a little differently, and they do call to that. But, like that's exactly
Right.
kind of what she's calling out, is that it would probably be easier for me to pay more attention if we had like the ability to like see you better, if we had the ability to like,
Have a clean area
not be
to
surrounded
kneel.
by
Right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so it's and absolutely, like, I think the diversity that Marvel's bringing into this phase is something that is long overdue, and they're doing a really good job of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think getting these different stories, I think one serves well because the fandom is so diverse.
Mm-hmm.
um I mean, think any of them. Like the fandom is so huge. I feel like it just means so much when you get to see a story that's reflective of your own world,
Mm-hmm.
and that honors like your culture and like things that look like your household. I feel like it means a lot. And it's, for me, like it's such a learning experience
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not very familiar with like South Asian culture. And I even misnamed it last week and called it like Middle Eastern when it's actually something
Right.
different. It's like South Asian culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's a learning experience for a lot of people who wouldn't even really be exposed to this kind of
Sure.
um it's beautiful. Like when they go to, I don't know what it's called. I think I have it written down, but they go to the I think it's pronounced Eid, but it's just like it looks like this huge like little festival of just gatherings of people.
Mm-hmm.
There's like different groups of people, like people who have just recently converted, and other people who are like, I think they have, what is it called? I wrote it down. The Illuminantes. You know what I'm talking
Right,
about?
right. The
The
gossip
scene?
group of
Yeah.
aunties,
Like
which I kind of
it's
mentioned last week. Like
yeah.
aunties be gossiping, but yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's so cool to be able to see a culture that you would normally not see so represented, and also in like our world. I think it also gives opportunities to a bigger diversity of people when it comes to just getting roles. Like for them to be so specific of like, we want to showcase not just a story based in Egypt, but give these opportunities to people who are of that
Correct.
culture. Same thing
Mm-hmm.
here, etc. And so I think it's amazing. It's something we've talked about a lot because it means a lot and it's important. And I think the show is doing such a great job of blending it into this story, you
There's
know?
like an old joke. Um, it was honestly on the Chappelle show, however many years that was ago, 15, 20 years ago, to where this comedian was talking about like his outrage with Hollywood as far as just like random actors playing in different cultures, like Tom Cruise being the last samurai, you know, and then like you have all these other people playing these other, like Brad Pitt in the Mexican, you know. So that is
Scarlett Johansson.
that is like borderline kind of disrespectful on Hollywood, but at the same time, even in watching this behind the scenes, I'll say it's a documentary, like the writers and directors kind of made it a point to where they don't want to disrespect any of these cultures, and they want to try to make it almost as real as possible. Like initially, yes, with Moon Knight, everything that we saw, it was never like even from the sculptures or whatnot, everything was replicated, but they brought in Egyptologists to make sure that even though they're replicated, they're
Oh
replicated
wow.
to a T. to make sure it looks super authentic.
Mm.
So I'm sure even here, whether it comes down to costume design or even just like sets like in a mosque, they have these experts just so ideally the culture is being represented, but at the same time not being disrespected.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. And I feel like Shang-Chi is a great example of that. Like, although he has been in the comics for quite a while, Miss Marvel, she's more on like the recent years, right? Definitely like 2000s, whereas Shang-Chi has been around for much longer than that. But when they first brought out the comics, like there were a lot of like kind of like racial slurs and things that were very, I can't think of the word, but just it almost mocked the culture versus displaying like the beauty of it and being in a way that like people can feel proud of
Mm-hmm.
it, things like that. So it's good that they are taking the time to really be so detailed as to get experts just to verify that what they're doing and how they're trying to tell a story, the sets, all of that are as accurate and as real as
Yeah.
possible,
Yeah. Okay.
um
So are we leaving the mosque here?
I think we are leaving
Besides
the
besides our
mosque
homegirl
before we
girl
move
losing her
on.
Versace's. Homegirl lost her Versace shoes in the
Oh
mosque.
my God. If you have, I'm sorry, but if you have lost like 10 pairs of shoes or whatever, like what makes you think you should take your Crocs,
Yeah.
take your
Yeah.
Crocs, take your like sandals. I can't tell because at first I took it very seriously. Was she kidding when she said Versace's, or did she actually mean Versace?
Versace. Like she actually meant it.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I don't know why, but like after it happened, I'm like, maybe she's like joking because it just. I'm like, if you've lost 10 shoes, miss, why
Sure.
would you bring your Versace?
Definitely. Like say if I know this place where shoes go missing, I'm not wearing a pair of Jordans or Yeezys. I'm just
Yeah,
like I'm gonna just like I got my Nike slides. I'll just wear those. And if those get stolen,
man.
those are way cheaper than Versace's. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
hands
Yeah,
down.
definitely.
But before we move on, though, because this is part of the training
Mm.
montage. Okay, I got this quote. It comes out of you and it hardens. What is it? It's from the episode. Do you know what I'm
No.
referring to? I'm gonna repeat it again. It comes out of you and it hardens.
What is like on some like some
This is
web type?
They're referring to the hard light, which is what they decided to name her
Oh.
powers. And as soon as they said that line, my partner was like, "That's what she said."
That was a definite
You
like
get it?
Michael Scott. Like I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say that on here because the first time you said it, I was just like, okay, it could be a sexual reference, but I'm not gonna take it there. I was thinking maybe she's gonna
But
be
it's
talking
yeah,
about like some Spider-Man type situations, but yeah, I heard it. I heard it. I just didn't.
yeah.
I didn't think too much
I
about it.
was like, "This is so weird." I'm like, no one thought like it was just so it was funny to me. Like I had to write it down. But she did give the name the hard lights for the powers that she has, which makes sense because they're like light,
Hmm.
and then she's able to make them into like concrete objects
Yeah.
essentially. Uh, that is all. We may move on from the hard
Okay.
lights.
Because training montage ends and doesn't it go straight into like her date?
Well, actually, it's training montage, and then it goes into the mosque. During the mosque, they also because it seems like there's a position on the
Mm-hmm.
board that's available, and Kamala is pushing Nakia to run for that like position in
Oh
office,
right,
and
right.
so that was kind of cool. Yeah, and it's kind of cool because she's going up against someone who it seems it's almost like everyone thinks he's got it in the
Yeah.
bag, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And then from here, this is where we move on to the incredibly brief like party scene because they show up 2 seconds pass
Mm-hmm.
by and then the party gets shut down by the cops and they leave.
Sometimes that's how party goes, you know. Sometimes you may show up and then boom, the feds bust it down. You know, I've been there, like so it happens.
What kind of parties do you go to?
Loud ones, obviously, where the neighbors are just like, nah, I gotta wake up in the morning, you know.
I'm not having it. I'm not
Yeah,
having it.
exactly.
um, yeah, and this is where you do get like before the party gets shut down. This is where Conrad jumps off like the house, goes into the pool, and then this is where he really has his like first interaction with
Hmm.
Kamala, who is like so. Her and Nakia are both like so evidently like
Hmm.
smitten with this
Hmm.
man, with this team.
But
And Bruno's just so bitter in the corner.
right then and there, that's like, say when this scene happened. Initially, I didn't think about it when I saw it, but later on, down the episode, even before the end, I was just like, something still feels off to where he jumped off a house into a pool injury free. You know what I'm saying? You know, and that's something to where I'm just
Um,
like, maybe he doesn't have any injuries just because he is a metahuman in some way, shape, or form. We just don't know his powers yet.
You're so right because before he jumps, everyone's kind of like, ooh, ooh, like a little like
Right.
worried, and even so, like Kamala's like, oh, should I do something? And Bruno's like, what are you gonna do? She's like, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but like you're right, they were concerned, and then he jumped and he was totally
Yeah.
fine. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I didn't catch that.
I
Nice
had
catch.
well,
That was
I'm
good.
only reason
Okay.
why I'm saying that is because I had a buddy that, like, say that came to, like, let's say my cousin had a pool party at a public pool or whatnot, and he jumped into the 5 feet and ended up like scraping his face, you know. So jump, and that's just from like the side of the pool, not off a diving board, not off a house, just from the edge of the pool. So I can only imagine that pool being so deep, maybe like 8 or 9 feet, but coming from on top of the house, I still feel like something should be broken at least.
What did you said cousin?
Yeah.
Was this your
Mm-hmm.
cousin? What did your cousin do that got him to scrape his face from just jumping off the side of the pool? Like I've jumped off like the high
Mm-hmm.
beam, like the high
Mm-hmm.
board thing. And like you don't have kids like coming out of the pool after jumping off like that like board at the top with like scrapes and
Mm-hmm.
bruises. Like what did your cousin
There's
do?
a oh, this is my cousin's friend, and say when it comes down to it,
Oh, okay.
there's a sign. There are always signs that say no diving for a reason, and he dove head first, and his face went straight into, like, cause you know how some of these pools. I don't even know how these pools are made today, but even back in the day, it was never always like a smooth surface at the bottom. Like some pools at the bottom had, like, those kind of
Oh,
like those little
okay.
pricklies, and I feel like he went face
Little
first
pricklies.
into one of those little prickly bottoms.
Now I understand. Because I thought he just got that from like slapping into the water. I'm like, what is he
Nah.
doing when he's getting scraped up from the
Right.
water? Okay, I'm all
Yeah.
cut up.
Yeah.
I'm all
Yeah.
cut up. Okay, cool. And here we segue into Kamran's car. Like he quickly offers to just drive everyone, which is like, who does that? Like you
Oh,
just
hey,
show
what's
up, you're
up?
gonna take all these
Right.
people.
And bring everybody. Oh, police are here? I got a car. Let's go. I'm like, if that were me, honestly, I'd be
Yeah,
like, all right, I'm going to holler at y'all. You know, cops are here. I'll see y'all at school tomorrow.
yeah. That was just sketch,
Mm-hmm.
very quick. It was sketchy. I do love how when he is gonna say goodbye to everybody, he says everyone by name, and then he calls Bruno
Oh,
Brian.
shit.
And then Bruno's like, I know he knows my
Right.
name. He knows it's not Brian.
Mm-hmm. So, well,
Just like a
first
diss.
off, obviously there's the salt factor, the jealousy, which is fine. Like he's
It's
been
real.
into Kamala, and she, of course, is just like, oh, that's my friend, and like it's like friend zone. But as soon as he sees someone that she's into, of course he's gonna feel some type of way and randomly talk about a show that everybody in the car, everybody in real life here watching the show knows that he's never seen. He's like, oh yeah, no, I watched that a couple years ago, and yeah, I found it really entertaining or some shit like that, And he's like, oh, come on, fam, you don't really have to try that hard just to try to like to get in between it.
Yeah, it's where you get a lot of like secondhand embarrassment with this car ride. I do love that after they like Kamala gets home and she goes inside, like you just see like Fantasyland take
Mm-hmm.
over. Like she romanticizes everything so much, because we see like a break from the fantasy when she says hi to her mom, and then it continues. So you kind of get a feel of the way that she experiences the world, which I think is so funny. And it's so like I'm so obsessed with Kamala. Like I like her a
Mm-hmm.
lot. She's a lot of fun, and I just thought that scene was really cool. And of course, she's like doing the doodles and all of
But
that,
see,
and
and
she's just having a
with
great
that being
time.
said, I feel like if anything, this little fantasy land, I don't remember any other kind of doodles or anything that we saw like in episode one. It wasn't as prevalent. Like it was just maybe that moment to where she saw him at the pool and then she kind of got googly eyed and then it kind of went into like a weird kind of filter and then boom, fast forward to her house and then she's in a fantasy land and it's obviously happened, of course, like you said, because it broke into her talking to her mom and it just like cuts from that but then back into it. But I don't remember seeing anything else in terms of visually uh what we got in episode one. I think the only other thing we got visually was her working on her powers, and that was pretty much it. No doodles, no drawings, no anything like
Um,
that.
She was doodling on her notepad. So not you're right. It wasn't like the Scott Pilgrim fashion that we saw
Right.
in episode one. I hope we do see it
Mm-hmm.
again. But no, you're right. And so like she was more so doodling like on her like notepad because she's like back at school. It's like on a Monday
Mm-hmm.
already, like the day that she's gonna meet up with him again, Kamran. And so as she's doodling, this is where we get what I call Kamala the blue nosed
Oh
reindeer.
shit! Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because she gets this like glowing blue on her
Mm-hmm.
nose, and I'm like wondering if this is just because she hasn't really honed into her
Mm-hmm.
powers, or like what does this mean? What are your thoughts on this?
Uh, I feel like it's the classic. Um, haven't really harnessed anything yet. Kind of like Toby. Toby Maguire initially finding out that he has web in the cafeteria and then he ends up like dragging it behind him. It's like kind of those like embarrassing moments that superheroes kind of teen superheroes go through, and this is just pretty much that, just her trying to get a grasp on everything that's going on. Like she tried to reach for, the the things you women
Hey, you women!
some
Whoa,
of the things, the
those are
lady
some
the
fighting
lady
words.
the lady things, you know what I'm saying? And she couldn't reach for it because her hand was blue. So, yeah. I'm gonna stop right there. I'm gonna stop embarrassing myself.
They're called
Mhm.
tampons. They're called
Sure.
pads. They're not nasty words.
Mhm.
This is a normal human thing. Come on,
Being
chill.
Oh man, being that I'm not, I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm still a kid when it comes to that. Grown man still afraid to say those words, okay? Admittingly here on the
It's
stream.
okay. We will grow
Yeah.
together. We will grow
Sure.
together. This scene though, I love this scene because I think episode one we got a lot more Bruno than we got Nakia. And here I feel like we got a better understanding of her friendship with Kamala, right? They go
Mhm.
to the mosque together. And here, like she followed Kamala in and knew something was
Right.
off and figured like, oh, she's in the bathroom. This is probably what's going on. So she's trying to hand her, oh, like, here's a
Right.
tampon, or if you want a pad,
Mhm.
whatever. And so I'm just like, I wrote down like, this is the kind of friend you want. Like, you want this
Oh,
kind of
sure.
friend. Like, I really, really like her. Like, I think it was really nice that we got to see their friendship explored a little bit more on this one. And Bruno did take a little bit of the back seat. Um, Although we got a little bit storyline for him as well in this episode, but it was nice to see more of their friendship because we didn't see too much of it in the
Well,
first
we
one.
got to see not only just more of her friendship, even at the scene at the like I don't want to call it like a farmer's market, but it's like the event that her culture was throwing, and then she runs up on Kamal's dad trying to like vote for me or whatnot. It's like, oh, but this is my best friend, and then she brought the whole suffrage thing out. She got real
Yes.
political real quick to where he was like, she's right. Uh, I don't know what to do in this moment. So here we already kind of get an idea as far as who she is as a person, to where being that Kamala is still a little bit more so on the naive teen side. I feel like her friend, what's her friend's name again? Nakia.
Nakia?
Nakia is a little bit more on the mature side and kind of like she's taking her role to empower women here, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, she's a really cool character. Even in the bathroom scene, she kind of discusses how like, I'm either too white for some people or I'm too ethnic for
Right.
others.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is just like true for a lot of children of like immigrant
Mm-hmm.
families because you're not 100% like, it's kind of like the Chicano storyline. Like you're. Have you ever seen Selena, the movie?
No, I have not.
So
I'm
many fails
Don't worry. I'm gonna
today.
watch the J Lo documentary that just dropped on Netflix, so I'll probably get like a wrap up from there. So
Oh my God.
continue.
No, they're not the same thing. Oh my God. But anyways, it's a similar theme or topic that they discussed in that film. Like it starts off with like what is Selena's like dad who is in like a little group, of like a musical group, like
Mhm.
they singers,
Mhm.
right? And they get like they get hired to play at this one club which is primarily like Americans, like white
Mhm.
Americans. And when they come up, like they get booed off the stage because they're, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm getting it twisted. They get a slot at like a Mexican like baile with like it's a really fun
Mhm.
scene, but they go on stage, they sing their song, they sing Blue Moon, and they get booed off
Mm.
stage because they're like, we don't want this. However, they can't get booked at places that they would actually like their music would actually be kind of like popping at because they're too Mexican and no one wants to hire like
Right.
them. So it's like a common thing of like I think children of immigrant families, it's like you don't fit in one fully and you don't also fit in another. So you kind of lie in this middle
Mhm.
ground that's kind of difficult to navigate, because it's not like your parents can like empathize with you. So it's kind of cool that they have there's friends who are in similar positions so they can kind of like have someone
Oh,
to
for
lean on.
sure.
And that's this really good scene that we get in the
Definitely.
bathroom.
Just
Yeah.
because, say, if this were a show to where we see Kamala struggle with learning her new powers and then also struggle with making friends at high school, I feel like it would take the show into a totally different direction. So whoever wrote it just made sure that she had someone to like you said to lean on that she can like not necessarily tell what she's going through, but her friend can relate, you know, because even in that bathroom scene, it was just
Yeah.
like on some, she was like, how do you make it look so easy? And she was like, easy, what are you talking about? Like, I've had this, that, and the third, but I've found a way to overcome it.
You
Yeah,
make it work.
exactly, you know, so I think that was a good thing for the writers to insert, even not even just the writers of the show, because you said they were best friends in the comic too. So if anything, like uh, to have that show without her, I don't think it would have made sense.
Yeah, like I think, and her friendships, I think, are a very big part of her storyline because it's like Ned,
Correct.
for Spider-Man
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. And in this case, like part of what their bond is that they have a very similar background and that they have to kind of navigate the blend between like their family's culture and being in
Mm-hmm.
America. So I think it translated very well from like the comics to
Mm-hmm.
here. And it's nice, and like I feel like Nakia is like such a like empowered woman, and she finds power like wearing the hijab, and she is like a force to be reckoned
Mm-hmm.
with. Like she basically like almost bullies Kamala's dad into like you're gonna vote for me,
Right.
women's
Right.
suffrage. That is that.
Mm-hmm.
So from here we segue into we get to see the counselor again, which we love. And Bruno gets accepted to the early immersion program at Caltech. Um, and the counselor is like so bitter because he's like, you don't understand. I am Meryl Streep. I'm giving you amazing
Right.
news. You should be
Right.
excited. But Bruno's like, you don't understand. There's someone here who's trying to steal my girl. Like, I can't
He's like,
leave,
it's
you
but
know?
it's in Cali though. It's in California though. You know.
Yeah.
With this counselor, right? It's he's such a pop culture reference guy. Like you said, he referenced what Mulan at first, and
Yes.
then we not only get the Devil Wears Prada, but I feel like there was another like reference like in this like metaphor that he was saying. He's like, in the movie when this happens and it could change your life, this is where you should be, you know. But
You are a Jedi. You are
right.
like he does a lot in like that one sentence. He kind of gives a lot of like pop culture references. Yeah, Meryl Streep and Jedi being one of them.
So
Star
he,
Wars.
I'm already seeing as the pop culture counselor. Like
Yeah, it's
him
good.
and Peter Parker would get along so well just because that's what this Peter Parker does in this universe.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
It's it was I'm excited to see more of his character. I like him. I like this little like small little one-offs that we're getting
Mm-hmm.
from him. But Bruno has like a big choice, and I feel so bad for him because I think it's in the next scene. He's like, "Oh, come on, we got to work on this and that for like our superhero
Mm-hmm.
training, and also I got to tell you something." And of course, Kamala is like all in like lovey-dovey
Right.
land because she's all about
Mm-hmm.
Kamran and kind of blows him off a little bit. And I feel so bad because it's like he has like a big decision to
Mm-hmm.
make when it comes to these like early admission things. It's like things are pretty fast
Mm-hmm.
paced. Like you need to answer and then you got to like, it's a lot. So I feel like the pressure's on for Bruno, and I feel really bad for him right now.
Bruno is going to end up saving her from Kamran. That's what it is. He's gonna do something like to where Kamran least expect it, and then all of a sudden they become besties again. Because right now I'm gonna say they're not so besties just because of the salt that he has for Kamran, but he'll make his way back into Kamala's life eventually. It's just right now we're starting to see something bloom, but if anything, that could be the same thing as Senator Palpatine and whatchamacallit in Star Wars and Anakin, you know. It seems good at first, oh we're friends, but it's really the dark side. So I'm gonna
I feel
remain
like
like
it's
skeptical when it comes to this guy.
yeah, no, I feel like it's also like Hans and Kristoff from Frozen, It's like you don't marry a man you just met. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
Hans, he seems like the guy. They have a whole song, right? Love is an open door, a bop,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Oh
And
Bob.
then like you find out a bop. And then you find out that he's the villain all along and Kristoff is the one that like saves the day. Not saves the day, like the ladies have it handled by themselves, but he's like the love interest at the end of the day. So maybe it's going to end up blooming in a similar fashion,
Yeah,
you know?
definitely. So from here, I don't wanna dive too much into the diner scene with her brother. I kind of want to get into the night scene because that follows right where she's out with um isn't she out with Bruno
Her family.
and Nakia at this place?
Yeah, because it seems like this whole event, right?
Right.
Like it seems like it's hosted by like their
Cause she invited
community.
Bruno. Yeah.
Um,
And Bruno was there. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Before we get into that, because something that happens beforehand is very important. I think Kamran is having dinner with Kamala's
Mhm.
family, right? And this is where we get a deeper look at kind of the roots of or potential roots of the power,
Mhm.
right? Um, Kamala asks her mom something, and then she kind of doesn't want to continue. But then her dad kind of provokes the story about like when the partition
Mhm.
happened, the Talder Sana, which I think is her grandma, like the one she calls
Mhm.
Nani. She disappeared, but somehow found her way back on the
Mhm.
train. However, her mom, right, Kamala's great grandmother, um, was pretty much lost to them at that
Mhm.
point. And that's kind of like as much as that part of the story is. As it continues through the episode, we get a better understanding that something happened to Kamala's great grandmother,
Mhm.
Aisha, or she did something that was disgraceful to the
Mhm.
family. The aunties have their theories that range from like she killed
Mhm.
someone, she had an affair, etc., etc.,
Mhm.
etc. And it seems like she is potentially behind or the answer to understanding what's going on with Kamala, how the powers were
Definitely.
unlocked because that bracelet belonged to
Mhm.
her, right?
So, but with that being
Yeah.
said, well, being that she doesn't have the bracelet, we can already assume that the bracelet doesn't uh, promote like long lasting life, being that the grandma doesn't have it anymore. So I'm assuming, if anything, the great grandma is now out of the picture, and if anything, I mean, now it's kind of coming to me now as far as who this old woman is. If this old woman is quote unquote Kamran's mom, then I feel like she may have had some dealings, of course, with the great grandma, and they may not be related, but of course, I think she knows exactly what's going on with the bracelet.
Well, also in the comics, Kamran's parents know Kamala's parents. So there is a connection between the
Mm-hmm.
families, right? And so, obviously this is seems to be adapted somewhat differently. It seems like maybe it's Kamran's mom that has connections with the great
Mm-hmm.
grandmother, right? And so this is the big question mark as of yet, and there's still more to understand behind this, but this is definitely giving us a bigger view of it. And we got like a much clearer form of her vision, right? We saw like a very clear person who is TBD,
Mm-hmm.
if it's the same one as Kamran's
Right.
mom. Um, we will both double check and we can confirm with you guys
I'm gonna have to
next
take like
week.
a screenshot
But
of
it's
like purple person when we get that
yeah,
clear image, and then the woman in the car, and just be like, put it together, be
yeah,
like, could be.
yeah. But yeah, it's like the pieces are coming together. The pieces are coming together for
Let's talk
sure.
about this kid hanging outside of a window like an idiot. Like, first off, you're holding on with literally maybe like one leg. The rest of your body is outside of the window. I was like, this is an accident.
Flailing.
This is an accident already. Like, I already see it. You know what I'm saying? So, luckily, Kamala was there, but if anything, like, let's say, of course, this is where she comes out in her Captain Marvel uniform. So obviously, I think right now it's just about her just becoming as close to Carol Danvers as she can with these new powers or whatnot. Um, but initially, she had a good grasp on saving him, but you can see she doesn't have like full control of her powers just yet. So was it a smart move to go up and save the kid, or do you think she should have kind of like held off until she's more confident with her powers?
Well, I guess the alternative would have been to just blatantly let the kid die because there's no way anyone else would have saved
Mm-hmm.
him. That's
Mm-hmm.
for sure. I think that this is one of those scenarios where like she romanticizes the superhero life very similar to Kate
Mm-hmm.
Bishop. And this isn't so much as saving the kid, but it's more so about, I think, for her playing the part of a superhero. And I think this scene was very humbling for her because she realized it's not a game. Like you're dealing with people's
Oh,
lives,
100%.
because I think when she slips, yeah, because I think when she slips, she's kind of in like that romantic moment of like, oh, the crowd is cheering for me. Like it's a very brief, like she loss of concentration because she's like kind of in the
I'm a
moment,
superhero.
almost similar, honestly, to Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, almost similar to Zoe, really. And I think if anything, like it's a really good parallel. Like she kind of gets in her cockiness for a split
Mm-hmm.
second, and something that almost cost them on their
Mm-hmm.
lives. So I think this scene was very humbling for her to understand. Like it's not the life you think it
Mm-hmm.
is, and it's not a game either. Like there are people's lives at stake, and it is serious. It's not just about you and the glory and like the view of being a superhero.
Where's Hawkeye? We need
And I
Hawkeye in
think
this situation. Hawkeye, where you at?
he has to babysit everybody. And something like being that Kate Bishop learned this, not in the same situation, but she also went through this kind of journey of like being humbled really
Mm-hmm.
quickly. In her case, is because she had that situation with Echo where she was scared, and Hawkeye had to be like, this is not the time for you to get scared. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I like she, especially since it seems like we're getting closer to something like a Young Avengers team up. Um, I believe Kate Bishop does lead the team in some comics. I feel like she would be such a great mentor to
Mm-hmm.
Kamala because she's been on a similar journey and having to understand like this is not a joke,
Right.
you know?
Um. So, fast forward, she low key saves the kid, even though he breaks a foot, breaks an ankle, something. He hurts himself, but the DODC shows up and she reluctantly uses her powers to escape. These drones, though, when it comes down to this technology, these drones, of course, reminded me of the drones in No Way Home, but now it's giving us a better idea of this organization. Um, who's to say that they took a drone, because where were they? Those drones were pretty much everywhere, and no, they were in the UK in Far From Home. But either way, I can see them having their hand in something related to Armor Wars. Just from these drones that I saw, because I think this is the only
Sure, yeah.
organization that's really kind of showing some technological like advances to the point to where if there is a threat, then we have these drones if we need them, and who's to say they don't have anything else?
Yeah, and I mean, like this, like the DODC, like collects items where like the ownership has it's a gray
Correct.
area. Like they kind of take over and take things. So who knows if maybe even these are maybe the same drones that were used in Far From Home? Because I mean, there was a lot of them that were just scattered and left on the floor. You know what I mean? I don't think all of them maybe returned back to like the
Sure,
hub that they were
sure,
held. And
sure.
like, who's to say if not like after the event they're the ones who picked up a lot of these drones and are using those very same ones here,
Let's
right? And then if that's the case, maybe even other like weapons,
because
etc.
as of right now, because I'm more so thinking about Earth and what the damage control can collect. Because as of right now, they've collected everything from New York, which is they have Shatari tech. If anything, they may have this Stark tech with the drones. And who's to say, if anything, they got tech from Avenger Compound from Endgame. So if anything, this company um, we know little about, but just from this scene, it just piqued my interest just to know that they could very well possibly have more than just these drones.
Yeah, I would say like they 100% do. Being what they do, being that there's been a lot of events where there is a lot of damage, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things scattered. They'd be the ones to collect them all, and in included in like their collection of items is a Ultron head, which has been like a theory for a while because the eyes were lit up that Ultron is still present and we might still see him come back into the main
Wait,
MCU
where was
timeline.
this?
Um, this was in Homecoming because Peter gets stuck in one of like the trucks or whatever, and then it ends up in like a warehouse where the DODC holds a lot of their
Mm-hmm.
items, right? And one of those items was like an Ultron head. The eyes were lit up the same way they would be if they were
Mm-hmm.
alive, because we know from Age of Ultron that when these beings were like when they're offline or shut down, whatever, their eyes aren't
Mm-hmm.
glowing. So there's like a rumor that this is an indication that Ultron is still out there.
Okay, I'm not mad at that. I would love another go with Ultron. Like honestly, a better go.
Maybe closer to your, yeah, I was gonna say maybe closer to like your vision,
Right.
like your pun, like
Vision.
your
Right.
idea of how Ultron should have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it might be in the books. People have heard you. They've listened to your
Thank you,
complaints.
universe. I appreciate y'all. Um, was there anything else before she gets into the car that you wanted to discuss?
No, I have a couple of things from the aunties because they give like a lot of the theories. We talked to some like that she's killed a man during the partition, secret affair, secret family, cursed anything she touched, snake, shame. And actually, right now that I say that, to the point that you had that potentially this woman in the car is that same person who is Kamala's great grandmother, and maybe she has some longevity powers because she's obviously very like
Mm-hmm.
young to be someone's
Mm-hmm.
great grandmother. Um, one of the theories Aunties has is that she has a secret family. So this would actually kind of lean towards your theory that Kamran is the son of Kamala's great grandmother, which would make them related, and that's disgusting. But that's your theory, and I think there's some evidence to support it. But we will determine once we
Game of
review the
Thrones. You know what I'm
footage.
saying? It's not like it's something that we haven't seen before. Now, kind of, if that is the case, we're getting some Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen action here, but um, where it's he could technically be either like a great uncle or I forgot what the level is under it. I actually saw a chart last year as far as like further relatives or whatnot. And I don't know if it would be necessarily a grand uncle or just like a second uncle, but at the end of the day, that could very well be the case. He's not necessarily her uncle, but um, if they're related, that'd be for a very interesting story to where I want to see them duke it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be the villain. I feel like that's what we're headed
Mm-hmm.
to. Um, we will review the footage and determine whether they are the same person. But this is just a tidbit that may actually support what you're
Yeah.
saying. So that was kind of cool.
Okay. Um, I didn't have anything else just besides the woman in the car may very well be the same woman that we've seen. So being that the show ended on that, I think that's everything that I have.
Yeah, and a couple things actually I do have just kind of stepping back a little bit. So something that happened that I thought was funny, like my partner and I both yelled it. Superhero landing! She's a poser. She did the
She sure
superhero
did.
landing when she was trying to save the
Mm-hmm.
boy,
I saw that.
expecting
I
nothing
yelled
less.
that too.
We would have done it.
Mm-hmm.
Come
Yeah.
on. Like, I practice the superhero landing on a daily. This is how I literally say hello to one of my coworkers. Like, he does the Iron Man
Mm-hmm.
one, and I do the Spider Man one. It's a great time. So, I mean, we judge, but let's be real. She is
Yeah.
us.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that cool? Perfect. That is our wrap on episode 2 of Miss Marvel. And now we're going to switch it over into the dark side, to the Sith side, to the other end of the
Switch the
superhero
colors.
spectrum. You know what I'm saying? So, say when it comes down to the boys, okay? Episode 2. Hold on, I have notes. Let me actually be professional here.
You know, you don't normally have notes.
Sometimes I be freestyling just because I do like rewatch some of the things right before we go on, you know, so it's fresh in my brain. But this go around, I actually took some notes. So, um,
Oh.
episode 2, it almost kind of opens up with like Butcher dreaming that he's kind of like a soup, right? And this is just to kind of piggyback on how the last episode ended, to where Maeve gave him the V24. Now, in this dream, he's like, I think he wakes up worried because by this point he hasn't taken it. Correct? In the dream, he's taking it, but at this point, I don't think he's actually taking it. Right?
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So, he's already kind of dreaming what his powers could be. Like we see the yellow eyes in the dream. But with that being said, um, do you think that any form of this V24 or whatnot, it's the powers are manifested from quote unquote within, you know? Because if he's dreaming that he has these powers and then in actuality these are the powers that he gets from taking it, um, because Maeve doesn't break down, it's like, oh, if you take this vial, you'll become the Deep or something like
Right.
that, or you'll become something else. So I don't know. I may just be a little unclear as far as if now V24 is just a 24-hour equivalent to Homelander, you know? So even though he's kind of
Mm.
dreaming it, it's still almost, it's leaving me with a little bit of confusion.
And, you know, I think at the end of this episode, his powers manifest very similar to his
Right.
nightmare. So it might be something that's particular to the person. Like maybe those are just the powers that, let's just say, I'm just going to put like the rules of like the X-Men. Let's just say he has that extra X
Mm-hmm.
chromosome. But for some reason, it just isn't active. It's dormant. But then, like that V24 engages it. Maybe these are just the powers he would have had if he was a
Correct.
super. On the other end, I so see what you're saying. Is it, but is it maybe on the other end where, um, like you take this file, you get the powers of this character or this character. It's not clear. It's
It
not clear. But I think being that he had a dream, it may actually no, it might actually be either one. Because if he's aware that maybe taking this file gives him the powers of Homelander, it would make sense why he had a nightmare that like that.
but
You know?
see,
So you're right.
here's the
It is
thing. Like
blurry.
with that being said, V24 along with Compound V, as we've seen throughout the series, it was never an exact science of these kids are gonna get these powers. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just random as far as like say with the soups before, the parents just sign their kids up just to take this compound and then eventually get some type of power. We don't know what it is, you know. But then fast forward here, it's just like say in episode one, if we're talking, I forgot the black guy's name, but like I don't think he's fully aware of what each vial contains, or he may be aware of what the vial contains because it's all the same. V24 is the same no matter what, but it's just going to vary from person to person. I don't think it's just like V24 is the Homelander solution.
I'll take that. I think that makes more sense because I feel like it would be so much more work for them to have to like categorize these things, especially in like a wartime situation, which is what they're planning this for, right? Like
Right.
for their soldiers and things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's probably like that theory that it unlocks whatever that particular person's powers from within would have been or something, you know?
Correct. Yeah. Like no matter what, whether if it's Compound V or V24, it was just going to pretty much unlock like what their DNA has, you know.
Yeah. Question.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to have any superpowers, what would it be
Flight,
and why?
flight, just so I can go anywhere. Actually, no, take that back. Telekinesis, because I think flight comes with telekinesis no matter what. So, if I could be anything, I would be Jean Grey. Just because one movie, I know this is a little bit off topic, but one movie that I really enjoyed and it really questioned like if I had a superpower, this would be it. It was the movie Chronicle. Have you ever heard of it?
I think I've heard of it, did not see it.
Okay, so Chronicle is a story about three friends who happen to come up upon an alien rock that gives them telekinesis, and then from there it can control like anything from moving objects to flight or whatnot. You know, so that being said, I feel like say right now if I wanted to go home to Virginia, I could just I don't even have to book a flight. I'd be like, yo, I'm gonna holla at you. I will be back tomorrow. I'm gonna just check on my mom real quick, and then I'm gonna fly right back. So
You know
that would be my
something,
power.
I'm tempted to things like that recently because I've been watching Stranger Things.
Hmm.
And you know, Eleven has like powers very similar. Like she has very much like X. There's a lot of like references because all the kids are nerds, you know. So
Hmm.
like when they first meet her, they're like, she's like X, like she's like the Charles Xavier, you know.
Hmm.
But she can move objects and she can also like kind of like penetrate other people's minds and locate people, etc. Like I feel like I've been very on like the fence. Like that seems like a cool power. Because then I feel like she doesn't fly, but it doesn't make sense why she couldn't. Because if she can move
She
other
can
objects, she
maybe
can move herself.
learn if she really put her mind to it. Because as of right now, I know we're talking about the boys, y'all, but quick little thing on Stranger Things. Okay, have you finished it yet?
I'm all up to date.
Great,
I'm all up to
awesome.
date.
So we get to see what's the bad guy's name? Um it's Vecna.
Brenner?
Vecna, right?
Oh, Vecna, Vecna.
Vecna, he has his tentacles from the upside down, you know? Those aren't necessarily his, it's just like those tentacles kind of give him the power to connect to the real world, the right side up. But you see him like these tentacles are like they have him kind of floating in the air, you know. And who's to say that if anything, he may have found a way to actually learn how to float in the air with his powers, because being that he's technically number one, who's to say he has mastered his abilities to the point to where now he can fly. So I know we haven't got. Of course, I'm waiting on the second half of that season, but I would love to see if 11 could fly, and then duke it out with him, like on some mental games like we saw in this series so far. Stranger Things may be just like number one in terms of just.
You heard it here first, guys. 11 flies in the second
Yep,
half of this
yep.
last
We
season.
got it. We got to hope for
Um,
it.
Oh, it's gonna be good. But see, I've always been like on the line of like if I could have any powers, it would be Mystique's powers. And it's funny because we both chose like X-Men related like
Mm-hmm.
beings, and the reason is because she has like not only is she able to like morph into whatever, like I wouldn't have to bleach my hair if I wanted to change my color, guys. Like I could just simply do that. If
Right.
I needed to escape a building, I could turn into a sheet of paper and escape, which she did in one of the comics, which just displays like the extent of her abilities, which is freaking cool. She also has like super strength, super like what's the word? Durability. She has like she doesn't age the way like people normally
Mm-hmm.
do. All the things. Like she just seems so cool. And she is blue. That's
You
all.
and your. Do you still have blue hair?
We may continue.
Do you have? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. It's kind of tied up. It looks dark. Okay, there it is. There's the light.
Yeah.
Um, just to kind of wrap up this in terms of just the X-Men kind of being chosen as of right now in the Marvel universe, and not the cinematic universe, but just the Marvel universe. I feel like it's just the mutants to me have always had the coolest powers. It's like, yeah, the Avengers, we have super strength, we have robots, we have the Hulk, and we have Scarlet Witch. But if anything, I feel like we mentioned before, previous at the whole Scarlet Witch and her connection to the House of M. I feel like it's her powers that almost reflect um, the coolness of the powers of the X-Men, and that's why I would choose the powers of like a Jean Grey, and if not Jean Grey, Wolverine, just because he's healed and he's badass and he can live forever as long as he wants to. Even if he didn't have like adamantium, like his thing is just his cells just regenerate. So that's my thoughts. I feel like
Yeah.
the X-Men have the cooler powers in the universe.
And if anything, it's because the X-Men literally came after like the writers were just like, I'm kind of tired of trying to have to come up with like origin stories for everybody.
Right.
Can we just like say there are people who are born with
Mm-hmm.
them? So it's like they don't have the limitations of having to be like, okay, I got to make a Wolverine and I have to find out like how he becomes Wolverine fully, with no powers to
Mm-hmm.
powers. It's like, you know what? He's just born this way and this is how it is. So if anything, that's why like the powers are so like superior in a sense or more fun or
Right.
whatever, is because they don't have to like you know what I mean? They're not limited by like having to
Right.
do an origin story in that
And
way,
after watching Agents of Shield, I honestly maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, once they announced an Inhumans project that eventually got scrapped, I think that was to me going to be the closest thing to X-Men that
Mm-hmm.
Marvel was going to have. The Marvel Cinematic Universe was going to have, just because they didn't own X-Men yet. So I was kind of
Yes.
banking on the Inhumans, but they they bought out the Fox properties, and they're just like, we don't need the human and humans.
We're
We got
good.
the X-Men, so all the cool powers are coming. But let's bring it back to the boys. Sorry, y'all. We got off on a superhero tangent.
Tangent.
We need to come back to the
But
human.
that's what you come
We need to
for.
come
Come
back
on.
come back to the human side. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what this spectrum is. Like, say Miss Marvel was more so about being the superhero, to where here we're back to being more so about the humans and the effects that superheroes have on human beings. We touched on it last time. This is more so the show about the humanity. And here, episode 2, we get like Butcher. He wakes up from his dream, and then he has like a Zoom call. RIP to Zoom, by the way, because I don't hear anybody using it anymore. It was just like a pandemic thing. But either way, when it comes down to it.
I feel like people still use it for like corporate meetings. I hear all my clients say that they got a Zoom
Oh
call.
yeah.
You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like
okay.
I think it's used. It's just not like, you don't Zoom your friends to have like a game night via Zoom anymore because you don't need it. So I think it's still there, but it's
It
no
may still
longer
be
the way it
there.
was.
Like I recently had like a meeting about like a month or two ago, but like even still that meeting it was like Google's version of Zoom, you know. So
Oh,
so
okay.
I was just like, is Zoom still a thing? I don't know. But like we kind of see this relationship that he has with his wife's kid, and he's like he's trying to play it cool even though he just had a nightmare or whatnot. But it's like it's a slight awkwardness that we kind of get as far as the feel of. I don't think the kid is looking for a dad necessarily, but maybe he's looking at Butcher as just someone to kind of talk to because he's of course secluded. All he has is the old woman that's watching him, and that's that, you know. So what are your thoughts?
I would definitely agree. And like he's such a sweet
Mm-hmm.
boy. He's such a sweet boy. Like Butcher, he just had this nightmare and so he kind of snaps for like a moment at him. Is his name
I think
Ryan?
so.
Is it the boy's
Mm-hmm.
name? Right? And Ryan's just like a sweet boy. Like he just seems like such a nice kid. I know last time we were talking about like he might be the one to kind of take down his dad potentially
Mm-hmm.
like down the road. Like he's I really like that boy. Like he's just so nice. He's so sweet to Butcher even after like I think he's empathetic enough to realize like okay, like something's going on. It's not about me. But they need each other. Like I feel like Butcher needs him as much as like he need like vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely agree. Yeah.
Would you say if you were just to kind of think about this conversation and the the end scene of Homelander's speech, do you think being that Homelander he kind of bragged how smart he is? Do you think like a superpower is being smart? Because this kid is almost kind of like reading Butcher like on some not a regular 10-year old is just like what's going on or like I feel like honestly that was kind of like a mature conversation to where who knows I feel like if anything uh the superpower of this kid may be to be a little bit more intellectual than most.
I mean, yeah, that is a superpower. Like Hank Pym. I'm sorry, not Hank Pym. Hank, the guy who plays Beast. Right, his real name is
Yeah.
Hank. Right, like
Yeah.
this is
Mhm.
all like X Men. We just keep bringing
Mhm.
in X Men, but him, like, part of his powers, he is like super
Mhm.
smart. So that is a power, and that could very well be the case. But I think also like some kids are just a little bit more mature. They understand empathy a little bit
Mhm.
more. But it could just be maybe a handful of both of it. Like he is very intellectual, and maybe that is just allows him to be a little bit more empathetic and realize or allow him to be more mature to put him in a place where he's almost comforting Butcher in a sense,
Right.
which is not often the role for a 10-year-old. Yeah.
But like say with that being said and you saying that, I'm just kind of thinking to like say in this conversation who's like, "Hey, have you watched that video yet?" And just now thinking about the quality of the video, say it's a voicemail of the mom, but if this kid made this video, I'm like, "Fam, this is like this is this is what Marvel does in the
I want to see
background,
the rest of the
you know?"
movie. Yeah.
So I think
Lego
I think
movie.
he is
So
super
good.
smart in terms of um, part of the powers that he has.
Yeah, and that could very well be the case. I can so see that being that. And if anything, that might even be feeding into like your theory of like he might be the one to take down his dad,
Mm-hmm.
like because he has so much potential, and he's so pure, like he's so opposite of his dad in terms of like his
Right.
core, like the base person that he is. And so I feel like he's almost like a foil to Homelander in that sense, right? Because he's exactly the opposite, because he has so much empathy and awareness, and that coupled with the powers of Homelander, like apart from like the 24, like he might be like the ultimate person to do that,
Right. Right. Okay. So from here after the Zoom, I think Butcher, he's on a mission, and now we come to back to back to Mother's Milk. And did we happen to see in this first episode, or is this like our first time seeing him this season?
No, we did see him in the first episode. I think it was his daughter's birthday,
Oh right,
Janine.
right.
Yeah. So we saw him briefly, but that's right. Like, this is where Butcher is kind of trying to gather people to help him essentially follow up on some leads to get a better awareness of what actually happened with this character, Soldier Boy.
Soldier. Sorry, continue. My bad. I don't know. That's one of Soldier Boy's like taglines or whatnot. I just like to say it sometimes, but
Yeah.
either way.
That's all right. You say it. You say it. Be free.
But yeah.
But before this even happens, we actually get like Homelander, who's being super needy to like basically like potato version of Stormfront because she can't even move, and he's like it's my birthday, and he's like expecting her to like respond so enthusiastically, and she's just like she can't. Like she just can't, and it's just such a funny scene because he's so needy.
Well, that's always honestly been the case, just because throughout the series, like say season 1, it was initially the original head of Vought, the blonde woman, and he kind of had like, as we can call it, like mommy issues, and then I think it was season 2 to where he had the person who could transform into anything, like a Mystique person, have Mystique basically turn into this woman, so this is just it's adding on to the layers of brokenness that Homelander is.
Absolutely. And then like that's a perfect segue into like Homelander's like birthday rehearsal, I guess you can call it. You have Supersonic because he's one of the contenders for like American Hero, and Homelander kind of just like clowns on him, and he's just being like a huge like a-hole because he still thinks he has like the superiority that we've seen him in prior seasons. And he's gonna learn real quick that he does not have the same power that he used to have, and he's not gonna like it one bit.
But do we know what Supersonic's powers are? Because all I've seen throughout everything is him being in a boy band. Like, do we actually know what his
I don't even know
his suit power is? Because if it's just singing in a boy band, why even be in the 7? Because you're not gonna sing away a bad guy. I'm sorry. So I really would be curious just to know what this person was besides being what's her name's ex, Starlight's ex.
You clearly learned nothing from Shang-Chi. And what's the best friend of Shang-Chi in the movie? What's her name?
I just know her real name, which is Aquafina.
Played by Aquafina?
Yeah, I just know Aquafina.
Yeah, well, you obviously learned nothing from Aquafina because she won a fight by distracting 2 villains in a flashback mention and in the actual thing.
No, I'm not even gonna. Yeah, that was so much luck. Okay, because if anybody in that dimension should have been like, I don't know, in danger, real danger, is her, because she didn't really have a fighting background. She just took like fighting 101 in a day, you know what I'm saying, or maybe even a few hours. So
yeah,
you don't
and then became the Mulan that we needed,
right? Exactly. But
I'm looking up the powers right now. Okay, I found it. Okay, so let me see. I clicked it and then it just gave me a much more vague. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back. But it says something along the lines of, okay, in terms of power, Drummer Boy, because that was his original, I think, like name before he became Supersonic. In the comics, he's known to possess the standard abilities granted by V, including super stamina, strength, and then it cuts off because when I click the article, it hides what I'm looking for, if that makes sense. So it seems like he might just have like the standard powers that like enhanced people have. But I feel like based on like the name he has, I would have imagined something in addition,
Right. Supersonic, I'm thinking honestly something sonically to where if it's something with his vocals, him being the closest thing to Black Bolt, to where he can just scream out and the waves crush everything. But it's not clear. So Supersonic here to me, I don't know. I'm not with it. It's like yeah, it's like he's cool with Starlight, but it's like come on. Who are you?
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
why are
trying to
you in the
find if there's
seven?
like
Like, why
anything
is it
else.
possible that you can even attempt to be in the seven? You know what I'm saying in the whatchamacallit.
Okay, even worse than that. Are you ready? Okay, so based on Drummer Boy from the comics, Supersonic's powers include all the usual suspects and enhanced speed, stamina, strength. However, in the show, Supersonic does not appear to possess any powers at the moment, apart from his ability to sing and dance in the band Super Sweet.
Lame,
Lame.
lame.
Moving on.
Did they announce the winners in this episode?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't think so. I think it's still
okay,
going on.
awesome. So say when it comes down to back to this mission, I'm sorry, because the whole mission right now is to find something to take out Homelander. So Butcher is now on a mission to find someone who has similar power, which is Soldier Boy. So right now he's trying to recruit which has a history with Soldier Boy, and he sends Frenchie and Kimiko to some theme park to find like a partner. You know what I'm saying? So that's where we're at right now. Um, but it's not totally clear as of yet as to how strong Soldier Boy is. Like, how do we know if anything if he is as strong as Homelander? You know.
Well, they're talking to him as if like he was the Homelander of his
Mm-hmm.
time, which is why Butcher's so intrigued by his story because he's like, if he was like of similar power to Homelander and something killed him
Mm-hmm.
off, we need to know what that was, how it happened, because this might be our answer to stopping
Mm-hmm.
Homelander, because that's kind of his mission, as what it seems like in this season, you
Right.
know? So that's kind of where the interest in Soldier Boy starts. And he's got the leads. Like he kind of sends people off to look at different things. One of them is like the Crimson. I have it written down. The Crimson Countess. Quick question: have you ever seen, or did you watch Fairly Odd Parents growing up?
On and off, it was something that my brother watched, and I just happened to catch while watching it with him.
There is a character. His name is the Crimson Chin. Are you
I
familiar?
remember that
Do you
name.
know who I'm talking
I
about?
remember that name, and I remember he had a ginormous chin. I think.
I really think that this character, the Crimson Countess, was based off the Crimson
Crimson
Chin
Chin.
because they have very similar
Mm-hmm.
costumes. The Crimson Chin, for those of you who do not know, is a fictional character within the fictional story of Timmy Turner and the Fairly
Mm-hmm.
Odd Parents. So it's Charles Hampton Indigo is a late night talk show host who was bitten by a radioactive actor and got chin powers to defend the people. And I think that he was the inspiration for the Crimson Countess, which is one of the leads that Butcher gives. In this case, it was for Frenchie and
Mm-hmm.
Kimiko.
And just from here, we're in the theme park, and you can see it's just like a Vought theme park. Everything Vought. Everything is like right. Is
Vatland.
it called Vaughtland? Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
So
it's called
so
Vatland.
obviously it's like you have everything Homelander, everything else from all the other soups that are in the seven. But say in that, why being that Vaughtland is about more so the current seven, why have a show of someone of an older seven? I don't even think it was called the seven. It was called something else with Soldier Boy. Um, but why even have her performing? I feel like it was just easy to find this person.
Well, I feel like it makes sense because if you have a theme park, I feel like they're almost treating it also like somewhat of a historical
Mm,
thing. You know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, this is Votland. It's not just like I think an amusement park, but it's also to kind of highlight Vot like contributions to the world, and if
Mm-hmm.
like it started back in like World War II times, and Soldier Boy was the then
Mm-hmm.
Homelander, I feel like it would make sense for them to have some, almost like the Captain America exhibit in like the Natural
Correct.
History Museum, something
Right.
like that. So it does. I think it makes sense. And being that I believe this woman, like the Crimson Countess, is I think was like a love interest of Soldier Boy. I feel like that's what I
Mm.
picked up. Did you get the same
No, I
vibe?
just got the idea that she was on the
So,
same team.
oh, potentially that too. Potentially that too. Like I feel like I just caught up like vibes that she was potentially like a romantic
Mm.
interest of his. But being that she like either knew him in that way or was part of the team or whatever, like there was pictures of them together. I
Mm.
know that. Then it would make sense for her to be the one to kind of tell the story. And it seems like she's kind of like a washed up superhero to an
Definitely.
extent. So it's like, yeah, she's working at an amusement park, you know? Having like as she mentioned, it's like the, what is it called? I found it. The tea parties. Like, oh, you look too old to be reserving like the um exclusive like tea party with the countess or something like that. Like, so that's like her job now. So I think it makes sense for them to find her there, you
It's
know?
just it comes to show, like, say when it comes down to Vought as a company, it's not just, of course you have the seven, but even throughout the series there have been mentions, even at like, even in this season, it's just like the the known other soups that are on a lesser like level, like local soups. And now I think she's just kind of not even on some local soup. It's just, you're in a contract now, you work for me, and now we're just gonna have you sing because we have the seven now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes, I mean, that seems like what it is, like a washed up soup,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So
But
that seems like what it is.
Frenchie and Kimiko uh come up to her, kind of question her or whatnot, and then it doesn't necessarily turn into a fight, but it turns into uh her escaping, but then like escaping without while blasting some of the patrons of the park, you know, and
The stuffed Homelander
right,
got
right.
annihilated.
But with that being said, it's just like, now to kind of go back to what you were talking about last episode in terms of like the life insurance or whatnot. Let's say if you were to go to a theme park, you know, you have to probably sign a waiver just in case. Be like, hey, this is Votland with soups, and something may go down. We're not gonna say you're gonna have a good time, but just in case, sign here, here, and here so you can't sue us.
Or I wonder if insurances would even cover superhero related accidents. I feel like insurance companies wouldn't want to cover that because it's so like it's expensive. It's a lot, you know what I mean? So I'm wondering if there's even a policy for
If
that under
if
insurances.
anything, like if we can talk about like episode one of season one, it was just like them trying to more so buy off Huey, so there may not be any
Hmm.
insurance. It's just like, hey, sorry for your loss. Here's $100,000 or something ridiculous, you know, just to kind of ease the pain.
Yeah, or like if they had a life insurance, exactly, and if they had a life insurance policy, I feel like it would make sense for them to be like, but since you live in a soup infested
Mm-hmm.
area, we do not cover superhero related deaths,
Right.
you know?
Okay. You want to take it from here as far as where we go from here?
Yeah, and real quick, so we're gonna talk about the rehearsal because the rehearsal is still going on for Homelander's like big birthday celebration. But I love how the Countess has a song called Chimps Don't
Mm-hmm.
Cry.
That video was ridiculous, by the way.
Which is like everything
Right.
here, everything. And something we missed from the beginning of the episode is this episode, before we even got into like the dream sequence, this episode started off with with a VTV television for women drama called Not With My Dolphin
I missed that.
that stars the Deep.
Oh,
You missed
right,
it? It's
right,
like a
right, right, right.
whole
Like on like the deep story and like with the church that he was in or whatnot.
dude,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like his documentary,
dude. It's
his
so
lifetime
crazy.
special.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, that's what I was trying to say. It was like a lifetime special. I couldn't think of like the channel I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking of, but um, that's what I wanted to mention with that. But the rehearsal. So Starlight has to like wish Homelander happy birthday, and she's like, I don't want it,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But like on top of that, like Homelander's trying to demean her by making her sing happy birthday to her, like Marilyn Monroe did for
Mm-hmm.
Kennedy, right? And she's like, I don't want to do it. I'm not about it. And he's kind of like doing that intimidation thing that we've seen throughout the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
prior seasons that makes like your gut wrench and like just hate him
Right.
even more. But this time around, he doesn't get his way because now Starlight has more pull than he
Mm-hmm.
does. Because the ratings and like the popularity, whatever, is now shifted. And being that she has been like the victim of so much just like nastiness through other seasons, it's so satisfying to see
Mm-hmm.
this finally
Yeah.
happen, in this way. So I thought that was so cool that he finally got his his comeuppance.
Right, but then we get again, like him trying to intimidate, and I just remember the guy's name, the dude, Stan Edgar, like the head of VOT, was just like on
Stan.
some
Mm-hmm.
like, sorry, buddy, she's like 90 something, and you're still here, so if she doesn't like it, tough, you know. And then
It's your
you can
party.
see,
You can cry if you
right,
want
and
to.
it's like you can see, again, it's another moment of him being jabbed at, and he feels like there's nothing that he can do, you know. And I feel like honestly that's almost kind of like the theme of this episode, especially how it ends. But it's like so far, Stan Edgar's always had that one up, you know. And say, just to kind of go just a little further into the jumper, you know, like he was there to save the jumper, the person who's going to jump off a building, but news of the only person that semi understood him died, and like you can see, it's like he loses it. He like the whole idea of having to serve a purpose to where no matter what he can't be happy, even with the person I'm assuming that he loves. I feel like he loves Storefront. It's just that uh it's unfortunate she's a Nazi and he has to deal with the backlash.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's like even the theme in the last episode, like you just keep seeing him get like jab after jab after jab, um, continuously getting checked, which he's not used to. Like he's used to getting his way and kind of doing whatever he wants. And it's like a ticking time
Mm-hmm.
bomb, and we kind of see what that leads to at the end of this episode. But yeah, like this was huge for him. Like he's like, why is it that someone so perfect and superior as Stormfront is gone, but you can still be here? And he like basically makes this person like commit
Right.
suicide, yeah, and it's like from the beginning of the episode, it's just kind of like teetering and getting like built up
Correct.
until ultimately he just kind of completely just like honestly kind of blows the whistle on Vought, right? He kind of exposes
Right.
them, like saying, if they can control me, you better believe they're
A
already
hundred
controlling
percent.
you. Like that's
They're controlling
yeah, that was
Superman,
big.
and you're just a human being. They definitely have control over you. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um bring it back to something that follows the rehearsal scene, like the one where he kind of gets checked by
Yeah.
Stan. This is where A Train makes his proposal for his
His motherland
rebranding,
campaign.
dude.
He's trying to bring it back to the motherland.
For the
Mm-hmm.
culture. For the
Mm-hmm.
culture. This is so funny because he like I think I forget who is next to him, but he like says it very plainly, like you don't care about your roots, and like he's like, you know it, the people know it, Africa knows it, like he's just trying to find a way for him to be relevant because he's really in the fields right now, like he can't run. He's gaining weight. Homelander is like
Still fat
continuously
shaming.
bullying him. We see this
Definitely.
in this up.
Yeah.
Oh, the fat shaming, dude. It's
Right.
2022. Do better, Homelander. Do
But
better.
let me ask you, like,
Um,
say in one hand you have A Train and him trying to keep it black and as black as possible by taking it to the motherland. Versus on the other hand you have Falcon, right? And Falcon he's not necessarily looking to take it to the motherland, but he's more so about staying true, you know. And that was almost kind of like I don't want to say it was a beef between him and the other the older black gentleman. Yeah,
Isaiah.
Isaiah, just in terms of taking the mantle of Captain America but keeping it black, you know. It's just like you have that on one side and A Train trying to make it so it's just like I'm gonna take it all the way black and take it back to Africa, you know. And seeing that, you can see who's going or who went in the right direction, to where of course now Falcon has the respect of everybody in the community, versus now A Train is now trying to do something that can literally turn him into a joke. And being that he came out during Homelander's birthday to the point to where he changed his whole entire wardrobe, it's like, fam, it's like I'm not the redhead woman, but it's like even me as a black dude, I'm just like, yo, you need to chill out, fam. Like, yo,
This ain't it.
relax. Like, like, calm down. You're still A Train, you know. People, the regular people still respect you. It's just Homelander that doesn't, you know. So just be regular A Train, you know.
And also, it's like it's not like Falcon was coming from an angle of publicity, right?
Right.
Like he's coming from like an angle of like genuinely understanding the importance of having this like strong figure that really represents a part of America that has been historically just
In the press, yep.
abused,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it's like, it's, they're very good contrast because here, he's like, he's like, I may not be fast, but I'm still black. And the funny thing, I mean, all of this is
Mm-hmm.
hilarious, but I love when he says like, oh, but I'm also black. And then he's like, right? Tell him, like, to the guy next to him, like, he has to convince him that he's
But
actually
of course the
black. You know what I'm
marketing
talking
guy is
about?
just like, uh-huh. And like when the
Uh,
marketing guy's presenting this, he knows it's ridiculous, but it's his job to represent the soup to the best of his ability. So he's just like, all right, this is A Train, and we have this, and we're gonna take it to Africa, you know. So I can just say that guy, he was just doing his job so he didn't get fired. You know what I'm saying? But he was still looking at A Train like me, like you're
you're a
being, yeah.
idiot.
Come on, fam. This is not it.
He's basically like using that ticket to get him back in the inn.
Right.
You know what I mean? Um, and then like one of he's like the movie A Train to Africa, and then they have the video game, The Middle Passage, and then that one lady is like, "Is that a video game about the slave trade?" And he's just like, for the culture. Like he's so unaware of like how much of a meme he's being. So I feel so bad for that guy who is just trying to do his job. And at the end of it, I love how A Train is just like, like I think we'll think about it, whatever. And he's just like, they hated it. It was stupid. And he's like so just not to the point, like he's so delusional in his understanding of anything that he still comes out on his own despite being told he shouldn't in like the new getup and everything on
I'm
stage,
gonna tell you, as of right now, just because I've seen just some episodes before, I feel like this season, I mean episodes after, this is the season to where A Train, he's not the drug addict. He's not the super speed like a hole from season one. This is going to be like A Train. Uh, I'm gonna call him the broken, just like Homelander, but broken in a different way, and it's almost sad to where Homelander, his story is a little bit more scary, but now it's just like A Train. He's in desperate need of the fandom as well, and he's trying to find any way, shape, or form to connect to the culture, but he's going about it in the wrong way. Like there was something that he did. I won't say because you haven't watched it yet, but
yeah.
but it was pointed out to me to where there's something that happened in real life, and I never saw it. But the writers kind of make a mockery of it here in one of the later episodes. So it's just A Train.
I'm excited to talk
Yeah,
about it when it
yeah, yeah,
comes
yeah.
out.
A
Yeah.
Train is just honestly, he's trying hard to fit in the culture, but this is the season to where unfortunately he's being made into a joke. And you,
It's a very funny
mm-hmm,
scene. It's just so good. Yeah, and it's sad, but he deserves
Mm-hmm.
it,
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
100%. I don't
Um,
feel bad for
but
him.
yeah,
It's like, yeah, it's sad, but you did this. You did this to yourself.
I feel bad when he's getting like fat shamed by Homelander because he's like coming off the stage, he's kind of feeling himself, like he thinks he just did like a cool thing, and then Homelander's like, I
Your
can see your
girdle.
girdle, you fat, like, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So
I have sympathy for him.
you
I
have
do.
some. I can say I have some, but no matter what, for me, respect to the one of the two black characters here, but as of right now, I have more respect for Black Noir. So I'm gonna just leave it at that. Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, no arguments here. This is where, so something we haven't talked about is kind of the Nadia
Mhm.
storyline, right? Because we left the last episode with Huey discovering that she is the head
Mhm.
popper,
Mhm.
right? And he kind of follows a trail. Hold on, I kind of misplaced my notes. Here we go. He follows a trail that leads him to a group home for
Mhm.
supers, right? And this is where he acquires files on
Mhm.
Nadia, and he sees the pictures that he's like, okay, like she is,
Yeah,
X, Y, and
confirmed
Z,
it.
like these gruesome
Mhm.
pictures of people, yeah, confirmed. And it also is where he discovers that Stan is basically like her adoptive
Mhm.
father, So this is a huge reveal for him. And, now he's like severely on edge and questioning everything because this is someone that for like a whole year has he's been like the right hand man. Like at the start of
Right.
episode 1, he's telling Butcher, like, dude, we got this. Like, you don't have to continue to do what you were doing before because we're running great, smooth, everything's great. And now everything he kind of like felt really secure in at this point is like dismantled
But
almost,
say like with that, it's like you can see even from here in episode one, and even to like say his struggle right now in this episode is like he believes that he has been fighting the good fight, and I feel like when it comes down to any character in any storyline, no matter the universe, if you believe you're fighting the good fight, you're not. You're probably more so helping out the bad just blindly. And yes, we find out that she is the quote unquote head popper, but now it's just like, damn, now this whole organization is still low key, almost kind of being run by Stan Edgar, just more so now by his daughter. So now we have two superstructures of soups, one acting like they're for the good, but in actuality, it's not. It's still yeah,
they're
it still
corrupt.
understands them. So that's that's kind of like Huey's conflict here, and it's just like, what does Huey do? And of course, it's like he confides in the person that's been with him this whole entire time, which is Butcher. So
Yeah, yeah. It's very much like it's kind of like Steve Rogers when he realizes um that Shield has been corrupted by Hydra from the
mm-hmm.
beginning. Like that's a big revelation and it's hard for him to digest because he also comes from a time that was very different. Like you trusted your government back in like World War
Mm-hmm.
II. Like if they said something, it's like you didn't think that there was a reason for them to have anything like malicious on the side end, and by him being a man at a time coming into the present day where it's like, what, like the government is
Mm-hmm.
corrupt, and even more so, like Shield, Hydra, almost one and the same. Like it's a similar kind of like pull of the rug where it's like you don't really know where you stand on it now,
But say with that being said, because we have Nadia's company, like, and then we have the meeting between Stan and the government. I feel like it's just Stan is just trying to have his hands in everything to where no matter what, even though we don't know him to be a soup, he may low key be a soup and we don't know it. But he has right now control over everything, like 100%. He has control over the most powerful soup that we know, which is Homelander, and he has control over Nadia as the quote unquote dad. I'm not. I don't know what their relationship is as of yet. It's like, yeah, we get that general idea of he raised her, but as of currently, we don't know what their relationship is, if she's actually running this campaign on her own, or if she's running this campaign with him in the shadows, you know? So it's not clear as far as where Stan Edgar is with that, but no matter what, he has that connection to where, if anything, he could pull something if he needed to.
See, I feel like in this relationship, it reminds me of like Eleven and
Mm-hmm.
Papa.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like he has that fatherly figure, but he has his own agenda and he's done some sketchy
Right.
shit, you
Mm-hmm.
know? But like, it may, who knows? Like, that still kind of has to be defined. Like, at least the way we saw it, I mean, he was talking to her daughter and they seemed like very much like that father daughter
Mm-hmm.
relationship, but it might end up being different because he's definitely using her, you know? Like, that's why he picked her or plucked her out from the home, you know? Um, but revisiting the group home because obviously like Huey had to kind of infiltrate it under the guise because creepy Teddy, right, the little
Mm-hmm.
toddler, kind of called him out, right? He pointed at the screen and then
The
the
counselor.
like
Yeah.
whatever, like the main counselor of the group home had a lot of questions and he's like, you know, like, well, we can't have kids and so we're kind of in the market for getting a kid. And I love how when like they transition into kind of looking at different kids, she's like, South Asians are very are a hit right now, and then she's like showing off like the, it's like a shopping spree is the way that they set
Mm-hmm.
it up, which I think is like very, it's just it's
Is
just
wait,
funny to
is that
me.
kind of, I don't want
And
to
also
say,
she
is
makes
that like
mention.
almost kind of like a jab to Marvel and Miss Marvel? As far as like,
I don't
is
think
that
so.
what you
I
mentioned
think
earlier?
they
Did you
just
say she
happened to
was
make
South
a.
Asian? As far as
So yeah, yes, like her family is South Asian. I doubt that there's a relation there. I doubt that they picked like South Asians as like the um kind of a. It's kind of like saying like, oh, like just Asians are a hit right now, and like adopt,
right?
you know, when adopting like kids, it's like that kind of trope that they use, but they just happen to plug in South
Yeah,
Asian. I don't think it was
like a jab at Marvel.
intentional. If it was, that's kind of, yeah. If it was, that's kind of, I don't like it,
Yeah,
you know. But in the same scene, I love how she also mentions like, oh, since one of the parents is a super, there would be less chance of parental fatality. Like that's awesome. Like the whole thing is just a meme,
right.
you know?
Um, Random. I
Yeah.
saw something on the Insta. I don't know when or what episode it's gonna be in, but they did say something to where we're gonna get a quote unquote Stan Lee reference, or a quote unquote cameo of somebody playing Stan Lee in this series. So I'm very curious just to see who is playing it for one. Well, I know who's playing it. It's actually uh it's back to Stranger Things. The guy who's having the conversation with Eleven in the coffee shop.
What? I have no idea how I feel about this, but I did not
Yeah.
hear this. I did not hear
He's
this.
quote unquote playing the Stan Lee character
Ah,
here in The Boys. So we're just gonna see how this goes wherever they place him.
this is some murky
Right.
waters. Yeah, these are some murky waters here. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, no, I hadn't heard about this
Yeah.
yet. No. You're saying for the boys, not Miss Marvel.
Yeah, I'm talking about The Boys. Like they have that actor in The Boys, like
What?
playing. It's like he's
Okay.
supposed to be a Stan Lee reference. So
Oh, you know, so okay, okay. I kind of like that better. I honestly thought you were saying that they were going to use that actor to almost replace Stan Lee in
no,
like a
no,
Miss
no, no, no,
Marvel
no. They're just
nudge.
gonna make
Okay,
like the
okay.
boys version of it, but it's a clear like representation of Stan Lee. So I'm just gonna guess that the writers are paying homage to him. You know.
Or yeah, yeah. And also it's like I feel like not disrespectfully because it's like the show does this
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. It kind of makes jabs at like tropes or like um consistent things that Marvel or DC
Mm-hmm.
have done. Like that's I think so common in like all of the seasons in this one
Correct.
as well. So if that happens, it's like I feel like it's kind of a jab, but like everyone
We're gonna see, because
takes
if
it
it
for what
is a
it is, which
jab,
is just what they
I
do, you
may I
know?
may take it in the wrong way, but we'll see. Like I can't say. I feel
We
like
will
if
see.
anything, just the respect that the people who write The Boys, I feel like they have respect for Marvel and DC, and hence why they created this comic. You know, it's like, yeah, they took the ideas of these brands and kind of made like a bad version of it, but they're no doubt 100% comic book fans. You know, and
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they would do Stan Lee dirty. You know, even though this show is about being dirty. I don't think they're gonna be like that to him.
It's a satire to the superhero genre, like
Right.
period. So by saying Jeb, I definitely do not think that they're gonna do it as an intentional, like, oh, we're gonna disrespect
Correct.
Stan Lee, because I feel like if you're a fan of the comic book community at all, that's a big
Mm-hmm.
no-no.
Yep.
But more so just along like the vibes of like the satire of this, like the comic book genre.
Right.
Because obviously these people, like, they have to be comic book fans because they know the comics enough that they weave it in this kind of a feel that we pick up on the joke,
Right.
but yeah, I'm kind of now I'm excited. Like, I kind of want to see this. I'm excited for when this little cameo or call to comes
Yeah.
up.
So say, kind of reeling it back, because we talked about A Train for a bit, but then there is a moment to where after the scene at the group home, uh, Huey feels lost, and like I said, he goes back to Butcher, and this is where he tells Butcher that, or I think this is a phone conversation where he tells him that Nadia is a soup or whatnot, and I think that this is the confirmation that Butch needed in terms of, I gotta take the gloves off. It's like, it was cool working for y'all, catching soups, not killing soups, because that's what they had him doing. They had him, quote unquote, kind of keeping random soups in line. But now he's like, okay, I can go back to my old ways. And I think this gave him the confirmation
Mm-hmm.
to, wait, before that confirmation, we didn't even talk about his interaction with,
A lot of things happened before the
right,
interaction that Huey and
right, my bad.
no, but that's okay. That's okay. Let's kind of like tackle this since we're on the topic, and then we'll revisit the things that happened earlier. Yeah, because like Butcher, I think after the last episode, he kind of feels like he's not needed in a sense, because Huey kind of dismissed him. Like, dude, like, chill, like, we got it. You don't have to be on this anymore,
Right.
And in this conversation, like, Butcher is kind of ready to admit defeat and be like, you know what, Huey, like, you're right. And Huey, you can kind of see, was on the fence of like, should I tell him, should I not? And he, tells him like what's going on, Nadia, this, all that stuff. And you're right, like, this does give Butcher like the green light to be like, you know what, the gloves
Mm-hmm.
are off, and we're gonna do this the Butcher
Mm-hmm.
way,
Yeah, because at the end of the day, when it comes down to it,
Pride Month.
it's a game, and when it comes down to playing the game, if you have both sides low key on the same side, it's just like Butch. He doesn't have anybody on his side, So he's just like, I gotta take matters into my own hands, Nadia's a soup. I got Vod over here, and a soup just gave me A24. I think it's time. It's time for me to be Butcher and level the playing field.
Yeah, and like in this episode, one of the leads that Butcher follows is Gunpowder, who was the sidekick to Soldier Boy, because this is like his solid lead. Like, if we find out what happened to Soldier Boy, we might be able to figure out how to stop
Right.
Homelander. So kind of taking a couple steps back. Gunpowder, he's like Bucky, like in terms of like the way that he corresponds, because Soldier Boy, like in the documentary, they literally almost use like similar wording to when they talk about Steve
Mm-hmm.
Rogers. He's like the son of America, born in
Mm-hmm.
this, whatever. And in comparison, that would make Gunpowder like his Bucky. And
But this would
I
be
think it's
like,
funny when Butcher does
sorry,
come.
this would be like a Bucky with no superpowers, right? Because I don't think he's a soup. I think he's just someone who was just
Skilled.
skilled at shooting. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to think back to the scene where he's attacking
Yeah.
Butcher, and I'm trying to see if I can recall any other soups. But I think you're right. I think he's more so just
Like a marksman, basically.
good at
Yeah.
shooting. I don't know. Yeah, like a marksman,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. But I love how Butcher approaches him, because he breaks the laws that I'm aware of in the men's bathroom, which is like, dude, you have 10 like urinals. You don't go to the one right next to
Man
someone
lost,
else.
man code.
And then he's like, yeah, the man
Mm-hmm.
code, yeah. And so he's like, I bought all your rifles. I'm a huge fan. And he's like, I would shake your hand, but and it's just like so
Yeah.
awkward. It's so awkward. And it's funny because when he says that, that's when they zoom out and you see that there's all of these urinals on either side that he could have
Mm-hmm.
chosen. He chose the one to be like right next to
Yeah.
him. Um, but this is where he ends up asking him like, he kind of, throwing jabs at like rumors, and he's just like, oh, like I'm tired of that unsubstantiated rumors about like sidekicks and superheroes, but he's not giving anything at
Right.
this point. Um, and Butcher brings up that there are like concrete or like records of gunpowder reporting Soldier Boy for like habitual
Mm-hmm.
abuse. And so he's trying to get information out of him. So far, nothing. And then when Butcher gets into the car, gunpowder starts to
Mm-hmm.
attack him,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Like it was on some like I feel like it wasn't even just the whole abuse angle. It was more so about abuse. I think if anything, Butcher wanted this interaction, the parking lot interaction. You know, because if anything, if this guy is just uh, a marksman, right, and he's not necessarily a soup, this is somebody that Butch, as we see right here, right now, can approach as a regular human being, being that Butch, I would say, was a soldier, um, soldier turned mercenary, but yet at the end of the day, this is man to man, soldier to soldier. So he did this just to kind of get a rise out of him, just so he can, if anything, in this initial fight, maybe defeat him in the gun battle to the point to where he can get the information that he needs on Soldier Boy.
Yeah, yeah, and like luckily he escapes because he kind of almost is, on like the edge, right? Like gunpowder's kind of
Right.
closing in, and then he like shoots kind of everywhere to distract him, and he
Yeah.
runs off. And that's kind of where that interaction ends. This is where like the suicide scene would happen. We kind
Yeah.
of talked about it already. Did you have more notes on that scene before we kind of move
No.
on? Okay, I think the only other thing is it kind of is in tune with like the earlier scene that Homelander had with Stormfront. Like, the news breaks that the Stormfront, basically pulled like $1 million baby by biting off her
Mm-hmm.
tongue,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he's like, "It's my birthday." Like he's just so centered on like it's my
Right.
birthday, and all of these things are happening. That's the only note I had, just because I thought it was funny and it's kind of like reoccurring. He keeps being like, "My birthday," you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, but this is where we go into MM with Janine. Like he kind of loses it a little bit on her because that there is history with Soldier Boy and him and his like
Mm-hmm.
dad, right? Because he has like a bunch of news
Right.
articles that you see earlier in the episode. So he's stressed. He loses it on Janine. He realizes like, okay, like I have to be involved because otherwise it's gonna eat
Mm-hmm.
at me. So he makes the decision, and his ex-wife is like very supportive. Like, she's like, just be careful and come
Yeah.
back home. Like do what you have to do. It is, all of that. Like we may not be able to be together anymore, but like I'm still like on your side.
I don't think there's been a
Um,
clear distinction as far as what has happened to MM's dad. Uh,
mhm.
they make it apparent that something happened. Um, we don't know if it was intentional. It could have been like just a casualty of Soldier Boy trying to stop another bad person or something, and his dad being caught in the crossfire. We don't know that yet, but it's like it's clear that MM believes that Soldier Boy is the reason that his dad is dead.
Yeah, because I was able to read some of the articles. I kind of want to look back to see and read them a little bit closer, but a lot of them were just kind of talking about Soldier Boy's like wins.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's kind of a collection of like, dude, like this guy is so celebrated, but he did X, Y, and Z to my
Mm-hmm.
family. You know what I mean? And we're gonna learn more about it as we go forward, because like he's invested enough that he's gonna leave his daughter behind and be like, because he's like, I was done with this. I'm retired. I'm
Right.
done.
Right.
And that's what he told Butcher. But it's enough that he's like, you know what, I have to get back in. So I'm very intrigued to see what that's gonna kind of bring around. And I
Like I
think,
think if anything,
yeah, I think,
that's kind of relatable, I can assume just from this. I think the closest thing would be the story of Zemo and Sokovia, and that was the reason why he had his beef with the Avengers. So it wasn't necessarily the Avengers' fault. It was just something that happened, something that ended up killing his family. You know, so um, there hasn't been a concrete reason as to why or as to what happened. You know, it's just now we have the idea of, it's like, he hates Soldier Boy, and he's been low key plotting and researching everything there is to know on Soldier Boy. We just don't know why yet.
Yeah, he's like obviously triggered, haunted by what's going on. So whatever is gonna come, I'm sure it's gonna pack a punch. It might follow something like that with
Mm-hmm.
Zemo. Like it sounds like it might be, you know. So that's around the corner, but he's in the fight, and he is. It's kind of like an exciting time because like everyone's all
Mm-hmm.
in by the end of this
Mm-hmm.
episode. Like Butcher, Huey, Starlight, all of them, and now like is in this also. Um, and I think that must, I don't think we don't see him continue in this episode. That's kind of the last we see of
Mm-hmm.
him. Oh, and from here we do get a scene from Kimiko where she's, kind of expressing how she feels responsible um, because she feels like she robbed these two kids who witnessed like the brutal murder of the Homelander stuff, whatever. Um, and because she was really much like robbed of her like childhood and her innocence because of how all the things that have happened to
Mm-hmm.
her. She thinks that she did the same to these people. Um, and it's a really nice scene with her and what's his
Frenchie.
name? I'm blanking. Frenchie,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And she's like, I can't fix it, and she's saying like she stole the childhood. And I like that, like how comforting like he is to her, but it's also she's still dealing with a lot. And she views herself as
Mm-hmm.
broken, which is a common thing,
Definitely.
I think, for the
Mm-hmm.
season. So I'm excited to see how her story develops, and hopefully it's kind of like a Bucky storyline where although she's had a lot of trauma, she's able to kind of find peace and see like some silver linings in it
Yeah.
all.
So I think from here I want to kind of get into because I think, honestly, I believe there's maybe two more scenes, and the first scene I want to talk about would be after Huey tells Butcher about the shits, and the gloves have come off. Now it's like round two between Butcher and the sidekick, and now you can see it's like the guy's just like, you again or whatnot, but Butcher's not limping, even though he just took a bullet to the shin, which I'm sure you can't walk on. I don't even know how he got out of there, but like, but
Yeah.
now it's a different story to where he's not even phased by the bullets, and now you can actually see that he's almost, let's say, close to the power of Homelander from this V24.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's a scene where I feel like it almost parallels. Like he gets some information, like finds out, like yes, like he didn't die in an accident, and the story that was sold to like the public about
Mm-hmm.
him being a hero, all of this was
Mm-hmm.
bullshit. And there was something that happened in Nicaragua, like in
Mm-hmm.
1984, and I'm sure that's something we're going to hear more about as we continue in episodes. And let's see, working with the CIA, case officer Grace Mallory. And at the end of the scene, is it where it kind of shifts into something that kind of resembles like the nightmare he had at the start of the episode. He ends up killing Gunpowder with like, I feel like he kind of lost control with his like laser
Right.
vision because it kind of just came
Right.
out,
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's like, of course, this is the first time that he's taken it, and he doesn't have a grasp on these new abilities that he has. So yeah, I don't think he has control over them just yet, and he almost saw the garage in half with his laser vision, but um, it, luckily the building didn't collapse or anything like that. But he did saw the guy in half. But did you get the reference that the um, sidekick was talking about
Which one? With
with the Nicaragua?
the
Yeah.
CIA one? Oh, not with no, 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 no. I didn't get the reference. I assumed it was like something we're gonna hear more about down the
Oh
road.
no, we already
Um,
got that in terms of
yeah.
the name is the same name of the CIA woman that Butcher knows. So it's her. It's the older woman from like the previous season. So as soon as the sidekick
Hmm.
mentioned the name, he was like, "Oh shit, this is my handler." Basically, this was the woman that was working with Butcher
Oh,
in like
oh,
season one and
yeah.
season two.
Keep in mind, I
Yeah.
binged
All good.
season 1 and
All
season
good.
2 with a ferocity. So like so much is just like meshed
Mm-hmm.
together. I'm just proud I'm getting the names right this time around. Like I'm in a
Right.
flow. You know, I got Butcher, Huey, like I'm doing good. So no, I didn't catch that myself. But yeah, and so it's like he did get the information he needed or as much as he could get from
Mm-hmm.
Gunpowder, but he also kind of got his nightmare come
Mm-hmm.
true, you know? And so I'm interested to see how we're going to see him at the start of like the next episode, and see how he's
Yeah.
feeling, you know, like post, because obviously it's going to
Yeah.
wear off, right? It's only active for 24 hours, whatever. So I'm interested to see like how his feelings are now that he took it, you know, because he was so hesitant to do it ahead
The
of
only
time.
reason why I wanted to bring that up just to see if you caught it was just because now it's like earlier this episode we already even discussed how it's like we find out that Nadia is quote unquote Vought, and then you have Vought, and now you have this old CIA person that Butch has known for years that's kind of been in the shadows in terms of what's been going on with Soldier Boy, and
Mm-hmm.
now it's just like Butch. I can imagine he has no one but his team. You know what I'm saying? As far as who he can trust, because who's to say by this point he's already thinking that if what's the woman's name that the guy mentioned? I can't remember the old woman's name.
Grace
Grace
Mallory.
Mallory, right?
Grace
So
Mallory.
say if by hearing that name, I'm sure Bush is just like, oh shit, Grace was has quote unquote been good, but now with this news of Vought and all that, now it's just more adding on top of that. So I think if anything, he's gonna be a little bit more defensive. I think uh, Butcher so far he's been more so that cool, calm, collected like person, you know. But now it's just like he's being fought at all sides, even on the side that he was on.
Yeah, like he's definitely, I think he's going to be guarded. Like he's
Yeah.
going to be like almost like questioning himself and like so it's yeah, he's definitely, I mean everyone's kind of like mind effed right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's going through it, you know, and Butcher's definitely not immune to the theme of this season, you know?
Mm-hmm. All right, we're gonna fast forward right into the birthday party, the birthday shindig. Okay, because at this point, we're quote unquote celebrating Homelander. We have A Train's coming out, quote unquote, with his Africa speed suit, and of course the redhead is just. I wish I can remember her name. I'm sorry, but I'm just calling her a redhead. But she is just not
Yeah.
thrilled to see that. But then, as of course, A Train's about to walk off the stage, the fat shame continues between him and Homelander. You know, we already mentioned it, but when is it gonna end? We don't know. You know, but say in celebration of Homelander, Starlight starts to give a speech in terms of saying like Homelander's about to donate all this money to some organization, and he cuts her off. And this is the point to where I referenced it before, or we've referenced it before, to where everything's slowly been building to this point, and it was uh, at first I would say it was the passing of Stormfront, which had him on the edge, and then he gets heckled by somebody in the crowd saying, "Hey, your Nazi died," and then right then and there it's just like Homelander's gone. He is done bowing to Vought. Like he goes on a speech to where he believes he's better than everybody, and like you mentioned before, if he like a being like him is controlled by Vought, then he kind of puts it into perspective that everybody is controlled by Vought. So he uh it's like yeah, he kind of took a stand to Vought, but at the same time this is where we see Homelander kind of cross that line into the craziness, to the crazies, to where he feels like he's invincible now.
Yeah. He's on the edge and all of this, and now that he like I feel like he basically just quit Vought at this point in like the
Right.
seventh, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And you know, like especially when he's like, oh, like I'm so because the way he kind of lays it out is yes, like Starlight is trying to do like damage control from like that one audience member's comment, and since her organization Starlight House, like she was just presenting it, she's like, oh, you know, everyone makes mistakes. Homelander's not immune, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to that. But like they have a chance of like redemption, and he has pledged to like put $10 million or something into like the Starlight
Right.
House, and that's where, because she's kind of trying to take advantage of her ability to kind of call the shots right
Mm-hmm.
now. And that's when he's just like, she just lied to you. She lied to all of you because I am never wrong. I am superior. I am better.
Mm-hmm.
I am smarter. And obviously the crowd's like angry and like booing him. But then he starts talking about Vought and like I'm a victim like you
Mm-hmm.
guys. Like he kind of like, I think, set himself up where he can kind of have a following, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? By pulling that plug on Vought. Like he's the one who exposed this whole like the power
Right.
that they have, because they have a lot of power, like they've, with the government, with like media, like that controls like everything,
Mm-hmm. And it's like you
um
can see.
so I think at
I was
this
gonna say you
point,
can see like the gravitation of like MM's ex-wife's husband now. He's like into it. He's just like moving in forward. It's like, oh yeah, because I think he dressed up as Homelander at the birthday party. So like, if anything, of course now being that Homelander is quote unquote uh freeing himself of Vought or freeing himself under the thumb of Vought, like it just brought out the idea of, oh, Homelander actually is the shit, and now people mess with him.
yeah, like, and that's scary. Like I've been enjoying these two episodes where it's like you see his power, his influence diminish, but now with this, I think he's probably going to get a boost in terms of his
Mm-hmm.
popularity. Um, and at this point, like I said, I feel like he's pretty much like quit the seven with this speech. And this means exactly like he no longer, like, it's kind of, what's like the phrase, like you took your foot off like the lion's neck or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Like now everyone's in trouble because he has no limitations at this point. And you've seen what he's done with limitations of
Mm-hmm.
that. Like, I'm scared
He's giving me
for like what's to come.
he is giving me what the trailer for Age of Ultron gave me. Okay, because in the trailer we get Ultron saying there are no strings on me, you know what I'm saying? And right then and there, I was hoping to get a super badass Ultron. But that's neither here nor there. But here here now it's just like this is borderline the same thing. He's like, I'm done being controlled and having to pretty much edit myself, you know? I'm the one that saves you. And
You
you
need
all
me.
need me for everything, you know. So you can see the face of Stan Edgar, super salty. Now you're just wondering how he's going to control the situation. And but you also see the fear not only from Stormfront, you see Supersonic look like, oh shit, like what's going on? And then A Train, I feel like A Train now he's just like, wait, is Homelander really doing this? And if so, then I'm about to be out of here because he hates me, you know? So,
Yeah, it's this episode definitely left us in like I wouldn't say like cliffhanger, but kind of a cliffhanger because it's like it's a pretty big like crescendo of like a
yeah.
finish. So next episode is gonna be an exciting one because now we have kind of like a team assemble, if you will, whose mission is to stop Homelander. They've been trying to kind of, you know, follow some leads to figure out how they can do that. Homelander is fully unleashed. So I feel like there's going to be like rampage in this
Oh, for
next
sure.
episode, because it's like there's no limits,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Um,
There's no
okay.
limits.
Well, that's how the episode ends. And I think that's everything. I covered everything in my notes. Did you have anything else you wanted to kind of bring up or anything?
That is everything. Yeah, that's pretty much all that I have for Homelander, all that I have for Miss Marvel for this episode 2 on both of them. Yeah, like I'm enjoying both of these. I sent you that meme earlier this week, where it's like, oh, right now with the comic book like shows coming up, it's like people will
Right.
die of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like comparing Miss Marvel and the boys, because it's something we talked about, like that contrast of the shows right
Mm-hmm.
now. And I'm loving it. I feel like it's a fun dynamic to break down these two side by side. I know there's been like a couple of news break this week on like different shows. I didn't write it down. I saved it on my phone, but I got you guys there, so I can't do anything
Mm-hmm.
about it. Um, but yeah, no, I think that's
All
it.
right. Well, before we head out, I gotta put in a plug, okay? Because we posted an ad up on Instagram. We got new merch, okay? We got a whole bunch of summer stuff in here. Like they let me design some flip flops. We got some shorts. We got a whole bunch of brand new stuff. So hit the link in our bio on Instagram. Check it out. Support the stream just so we can do some cooler stuff. And yeah, I think it's pretty cool as far as what like because they've since I've made the merch they've added more, so that's where yeah
Options, yeah.
I'm giving y'all more options. We're giving y'all more options, okay? So
This is our summer lunch. So go click the link in the bio, support the fans, and get yourself a bucket hat.
yeah. All right, well, Grace, thank you as always. It's been awesome, and we will catch y'all
Likewise.
next week for episode 3 of both series. So until then, you all have a great weekend. Grace, you have a good weekend, and we will catch y'all on the next one.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.